backdrop more than Darren's car?
I think he won't mind either.
We can spin around.
Yeah.
Yeah. You just like every 15 minutes you can rotate the camera a little bit.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, well, we do have a few. We got a few good backdrops.
Hell yeah. Okay, the boys from Streetcar Shenanigans. You guys are kind of the talk of town lately because you're working on the Cookie Monster.
Yeah. Finally.
Well, I can't wait to hear.
I've heard a few interviews that Tom's been on, and he explains it well. You know, it's once you kind of get going and you get the ball rolling on it kind of just full force. You know, for us, we have a really large workload. We work with a lot of competitive racers, a lot of competitive street cars, whether they're racing them or just capable of being raced. Either way, everything we build is like with like competition race in mind, and you kind of just try to focus on a couple at one time. And Tom's is a weird situation where it kind of hung out for a long time before the ball really got pushed off the hill. And then once it did, now it's like done. So yeah,
I'm looking forward to
much left to do on the car.
Yeah, other than pretty it up, right? Well,
Yeah.
not that it's not pretty already, but pretty up the paint and shit.
Yeah.
Well, hey, it shoots flames, so what else matters?
Yeah, according to Instagram, nothing. Actually.
That's just it.
Yeah, I am looking forward to hearing your guys' side of the story. Not that it's any different from Tom's, but Tom admittedly is like, listen, you know, we're throwing everything at this thing. We can't figure the fucking car out, right? And it's just fighting us in the weirdest ways. And I remember him because, you know, you guys know how this goes. And anybody that's a car guy out there listening knows this. Like, you say you got a problem, right? It's like everybody's got a fucking idea, right?
Yeah.
And you guys are the two poor bastards pulling wrenches on it, going like, guys, we fucking tried that already. Like, come on, you know? It's not the fucking ground cable. Fuck off.
Yeah.
With that said, though, I feel like this car went to the other extreme of that, where it was almost like, you know what? We've literally tried everything. It's like, here's a reward to the person that throws out the ant. Because Tom even said it himself.
Put the reward out there, yeah.
I forget what it was. You know, he's like, I will give you however much.
It was like $500. He's like, $500 if it was like a cash reward if it leads to where we're going, you know. And then, oh my gosh, how many IAC motor tuning? Like,
oh my god, yeah.
Like, there's 600 comments of IAC on here, but yeah, that was a funny one. That was an interesting problem.
I guess the elephant in the room on that one is, have you guys driven this car and like done the whole hard brake thing to make sure like the random cutout?
No,
is it happening with the new situation?
Yeah, we pushed it into a parking stop.
I was saying, I went one up to not even needing to be driven.
Yeah,
it really just needed to be. Oh, and inertia stopped. It was weird.
Well, I guess let's like back it up just for a second, because obviously, you know, the reward on fixing it, what was the problem? That all came second to the car was really sweet. You know, like it drove amazing. I mean, it was an awesome car, and Tom has a very high standard. He wanted his 500 horsepower foxbody to drive like a regular factory stock car. And it did really good, aside from that one thing. And it wasn't annoying. And in fact, I think we started working with each other because he's had it through a few other shops locally. And he was like not really happy with how it would return to idle, how it would surge. It was like always really inconsistent with how it would be. And he's like, and the reason I put the Holly on the stupid thing was so that we could fix that. All right, hold on. Is there right now? Sorry. Looks weird. I'm flipping it around. This is how we're actually sitting. Moving my hands around. It's opposite. Anyway, sorry about that. So, yeah, exactly. So he was, you know, kind of unhappy with how the car ran. And then I messed with it for a long time. We ended up getting into some other wiring situations that we thought might be having an effect on it because we couldn't get it really to repeat very well either. And then we got it to where it was really good. You know, we were happy with it. And it started to do this ghost idle hang. And we chased that for like ever, you know. Aside from that ghost idle hang, it was awesome. Like literally the best car I've ever driven, ever. All the time. You cruised it down the highway, it was amazing. You floored it, it was amazing. You start cold start, hot start. I mean, literally everything that you could ask the car to do was perfect. It was perfect. And I got to the point where I'm pretty savvy with the aftermarket ECU tuning. And I got it to where it masked the issue that it had. This was prior to us knowing exactly what it was doing. But I got it to where you wouldn't feel it. You can kind of hear it in the exhaust note. But the second problem is instrumentation on the high systems, or like for anybody, it's like if the average Joe puts a wideband in their car, it's like the tuner's worst nightmare, right? You're driving it down the road, you see it blip to like 17.8, and all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, what's wrong with it? You know, and you immediately call somebody like us and it's like, hey, I was driving it. I'm like, did you feel it? Did it make any noise? Did it really affect? Just for all intents and purposes, you could put that thing in the garbage just from when you're flooring it wide open, you know, and a fuel pump dies off or something. That's when it matters to have it. But otherwise, it just raises question. Same with Tom and his 3.5 poly screen. He knew that I was manipulating the parameters of the engine to fix or hide the problem, and he could see it happening on the screen, and it drove him nuts.
You know? We got it to where it was masked. You couldn't tell at all when driving. The only reason you would tell, is purely from looking at the screen and seeing the numbers move.
Yeah. And then so then move on to the actual like cause and effect. In order for me to fix it, I made some tables in the Holly that would basically yank ignition timing out of it if it was struggling to pull itself down to idle. We would just have it pull tons of time, and then once it leveled out and corrected itself, let's say, it would feed it back to a normal base timing table and idle, because it was odd when it would do this thing. So I was like, you know what is the engine actually doing? You know, we couldn't replicate getting it to act up without actually driving it and hitting the brake hard, which I'm sure you guys have heard the story 1,000 times. So I went to like my mentor shop and I'm like, hey man, I've been messing with this thing for literally 2-3 weeks. I can't figure out a way to get it to replicate the problem. I go, I think I want you to drive it like in front of his shop and hit the brakes. I'm going to run out and I'm going to throw a timing light on this fucking thing. And I'm going to see what the ignition timing is as it revs up, because, you know, you can't really do that on the road, and it wouldn't replicate on the dyno because there was no inertia effect, I guess, you know, that would cause it to do it. You know, it had to be moving. And then that is what turned into pushing it into a parking stop, like, you know, the big rubber bricks. So that's when we were just out of the car completely, not touching a brake pedal, not affecting any system in the car, push it against the parking stops, and then it would rev up. Then we were able to consistently get it to do it. And we were consistently able to see that something between, you know, something was commanding 25 degrees more ignition timing, but it wasn't the Holly. You know, the Holly was commanding 0 or even negative. You know, like my table that I got that figured it out, I was pulling 25, 30 out, and I didn't know it was adding 25, 30, but that's how much I had to yank out of it in order for it to function normal. And to find out, it was just adding 25. No matter what number I programmed into the ECU, it would add 25 on top of it.
Really?
So then it would just all of a sudden come right back out, and life was just normal, totally normal. Yeah, it was totally bizarre.
It was
I mean, we literally eliminated every single system.
We tried multiple devices of each, of each unit: the Holly, the MSD, the dual sync, the wiring, the whole Holly harness. The only thing we didn't do at the time was the previous person who tied in some shit into the factory harness, which, again, we have no idea if that was the root cause of it, but this go around, we just
redid it all.
Redid everything. Everything is purely ran through the Holly. The only thing the factory harness is doing is chassis stuff. So
that's wild, man. Like that pretty much.
We're no dummies, and we couldn't figure it out.
Yeah, like I know you're probably trying to avoid saying it like anybody that works on cars does, but like this is ghost level shit.
Yeah.
It was,
It still is. We didn't figure it out. One day the car is sitting here and Tom's like, I can't believe I didn't drive my car all year, the stupid problem. And I'm like, well, honestly, Tom, if it was me, I probably would have continued to drive it until we figured it out. But, at this point, I don't know what else there is that we could do. I think that your goal for the car, which is like what it is now, I think we kind of snowball. It's much 4 or 5 levels above what Tom ever wanted, I think, because it's super fucking sweet. But his original plan was, coil on plug. And then I was like, well, if you're doing coil on plug, we're doing a crank trigger, a cam trigger, cam sync. We're not going to run anything like through a dual sync distributor. We're going to make it all like kind of raced up, how we do it on the race car stuff. I go, and we're literally going to throw the entire ignition system, which is what is affecting this problem. It's all ignition system related. We're just going to throw it all in the garbage, right? So now it's coil on plug. It's got a 12-1 magnet wheel balancer. It's got a 1X cam sync. It has Holley smart coils, custom made wires, mounting. It's all tucked away really super nice. And it runs amazing. It picked up running quality also,
Right.
But it was a little bit of a
watched
gamble.
the video.
It was a little bit of a gamble.
The only other thing we didn't know if it was it's hard. It was hard to say if it was mechanical because obviously what we did when we just pushed the parking stops and stuff. But obviously we don't have the stock motor anymore, so that was another thing we potentially had a theory about. But it was like
we pulled the stock motor out of it.
Yeah,
I pulled the
everything
timing
looked
cover
good,
off
yeah.
of it and looked and see if the cam was doing anything weird. If it had a because we can go in the weeds about this for hours, because it's such a stupid problem that we never figured out. But your brain starts to think, okay, well, the ignition timing is being read off of a 8-paddle wheel inside the distributor, which is driven between the cam gear and the distributor gear, which then has the timing chain down to the crankshaft. So there's 4 points of movement, slop, tolerance that is something, like is the pin in the dual sync, like half broken, right? Where all of a sudden, like this pin is cocking back and forth and we're getting movement. And now all of a sudden the ignition timing is being swung that little bit. Yeah. I posted online a couple times about it. Some people said that they saw that the Holley would start to read from the falling side of the sensor to the rising side. But the math says that 25 degrees doesn't make sense. It would be a much larger jump. It'd be, I think, 60, 50 degrees if it was doing that. So, yeah, we went down a bunch of rabbit holes. And when we pulled it out, we pulled the time cover off of it. And I'm like, I don't see any problems in here either. I don't think I'm ever going to figure out what was the actual solution aside from, the good old the parts cannon.
Yeah. A lot of head scratching and hair pulling, that's for sure.
Oh,
that's the craziest problem that we've never. That's like the only thing that I think I could think of that we've not figured out of any car that's ever been here for. We're notoriously fixing other shops' problems, other problem childs. Like that is what we do. We built our reputation on that. And it was like,
this one was
like I don't know, Tom.
Yeah.
Sorry, buddy.
Well, there's got to be that threshold, right? Of literally how much time, money, energy and everything is being spent in chasing this situation. And, it happens time and time again where you're like, man, I could have changed the motor 3 times in the same amount of time of just trying to chase this problem. Like same thing, like the hours are adding up. And and knowing Tom and where he wanted to go, I think the outcome, this was sort of it manifested itself, maybe not in the way that he, by design, but I think, at the end of the day, it's going to be even more than what he wanted. And, he'll be really happy, I'm sure. So I think it's just the unknown that's just going to be like, what the hell? Like if it were me, I'd be taking that motor and just throw it, like just find a ship box that you can throw it in and just see, like, just throw like a factory harness or whatever back on it, or let somebody else mess with it and see if it goes away. Or see if it like carries on like the curse. Curse of the Cookie Monster.
That's no shit.
Exactly.
I mean that is like the only option. I think he has it. I think he sold it to He sold it to Dwayne, Chicano Fox, and then I think he's now in the midst of potentially getting it back. So I don't know
he
if that.
he did mention that, on the pod that he was thinking about taking it back.
Yeah, and it's like I don't think that there was anything wrong. It's just great. I don't know. Weird thing, man. It was like we redid so much stuff 2 and 3 times. And I mean, and I've heard Tom talk about it too. It's like we got to the point where I'm like, Tom, I'm not charging you any money for this because if I charged you for this, it would be just so astronomical. I can't even do it, And I didn't fix it. So it's like, we're just gonna take this one on the chin as an L. And how about you let us build you a badass car instead?
Yeah, we wanted to see it through as much as possible. That's another fault kind of ours. We love to see the projects to the end. We want to do everything we can in order to make sure that we see them to the end of it. Make sure they run right. Everything. Any little project that we're involved in, we try to do all we can.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that's kind of the funny part with it is, okay, we're not going to charge you anything for trying to figure this disaster out, but why don't you bust out your checkbook? We'll get a 363. We'll get let's really rock and roll here.
Yeah. What's on your wish list here for this car?
Yeah.
It's like, well, if you want to do the math, well, it's like getting 10% off because we're not going to charge you for that. So, but now now it's awesome. Now I'm super happy with the outcome of the car overall. I mean, it turned out way cooler than any of us did. But my biggest thing is like talking with people. I'm like, oh man, we look at cars all day. I mean, I'm sure you guys do, right? We're addicts, and you're always like, we bid one. Oh, if we tweak this and did this to the next one, like that's how we're going to do it from now on. And then you kind of continually do that. So every single one that we do to this level is a little bit wilder or a little bit like, it's better. It's better than the last one, in one way or another. So Tom being the most recent streetcar AC, radio, stock interior, like it's pretty freaking cool. It's a really well-built car now,
Yeah. Oh, it sounds super crispy, boys. I watched the video there, and Tom's been dripping videos here and there when he can, right? And you hear that thing run. It's like, good gracious. Like, this is exactly what your cartoon mind imagines with like high horsepower, tight, like it runs good.
Yeah, it's snappy. It's sweet. We're very, very proud of it so far. It's badass. It's only like you say, if it's only going to get better, we're going to clean up a couple little things he wants to do for now. And
I hope it goes 9.
Hey.
It should go like bottom 9s.
But listen, I don't want to jinx anything here, but maybe this is the trouble, right? Is like Tom wanted to throw the Holly in that car, right? Because it was good before, right? I think it was good before. How did it go now? It was good before it got the T5, and then it was good before it got the heads cam and intake, and then it was good before it got the blower, and then. So I know it's going to all turn out fine, boys.
Ain't that the problem?
Yeah. Can't leave well enough alone.
No.
I have a 1200 horsepower street car at the tire, and the engine's out, and I'm changing something. The car's
ran fine in the season.
Like, let's take it apart.
Well, okay, boys, and I think my question will maybe lead us into all of that stuff. Like, tell us how Streetcar Shenanigans comes to be.
Well, I guess we're always in the cars. The Tramp, which is my 94 Cobra. That car, which is actually like Tom's build now is very similar to what the Tramp was 4 or 5 years ago. So the engine combination, the parts list that's in it, it's like what the Tramp used to have, plus what I've learned since then, and kind of like combine that together. Like this has like a couple key.
How's it get a name like the Tramp? I love this.
Yeah. So that's where like kind of streetcar started, was that the Tramp was my dad's car. He bought it when I was 11. So I'm 34 now. So he bought the Tramp 23 years ago. And then he My mom wanted to call it the whore because it was always getting all the jewelry and it was the side piece, you
The
know.
extra time, whatever,
But-
money, all that
But
stuff.
needed to turn it down to a PG version for the kids, so the Tramp came to be. And then the name
All right,
stuck.
I like
You know,
it.
now everyone knows it as the Tramp, and it's a great name. So.
True. Tramp doesn't get used as much as it used to. You know, we need to bring Tramp back.
Yeah, yep.
I like it.
I'll put
Okay,
that on the
so
shirt. So that's what started our car addiction. I was always wrenching with my dad in the garage on the Tramp, you know, and it started off as a 302. And when we took it apart, we figured out it was like a 30 over short block, and we did Holley System Max 2 setup on it. I think we put a 327 short block in it, so it was like stock bore 325 crank stock block. That motor was in there for a while. I don't remember what made us transition to a 347. Then went from the 340, still stock block. I think it was a DSS short block.
Mhm.
Then when I was in high school, we put blower on it. So that was like my freshman year. We put a D1 SC Pro Charger kit on it. And at the time, it was still J4, J1 stock ECU car. 93 octane as always. Put the blower on it. Him and his buddy took it out on the road. And I think I was at school even. Like they put the blower kit on. I helped the night before. They finished it the next day, and then they blew it up before I even got home.
doing a
So
hot
I got
lap.
back,
Nice.
and I got back, and it was like, oh, we got to pull the motor out. You know, we nuked it. So that was fun. You know, but then we put a Dart. Then we put a Dart 363 in it, but we utilized all the Holley System Max top end stuff. So you know, it's like you kind of went a little bit above and beyond on the short block, but then left the small stuff on top. That car was like it made like 540 in the stock block setup for a long time. Then when we heard it, that's what made it go from the 327 to 342. They blew up the 327 immediately, and then we put a 342 in it, and it was like a 550 wheel horsepower car on a stock ECU for ever. It was, you know, it was at the time, that was 2007 to 2010. It was the fastest car that, you know, we really knew of in our circle at the time. All my friends like, oh, this is the craziest car ever. Which I still say that
to this day when they go for a ride.
yeah. And then it, you know, that's what got us hooked. And then one day I moved. I was living somewhere else. I wasn't really doing a whole lot of car stuff. I was in like a sales role. I was managing an office. And I was gone for like 3-4 years, and I came back and I was talking to Dan, and I'm like, hey, you know, Facebook groups are like becoming like a big thing right now. You know, Facebook was pushing, all the groups were starting up, right? So I was helping somebody with like a Ford group, and I was like, well, I want to make my own Facebook group. Like that's the cool thing to do right now. So I didn't want it to be Mustang only. Even up until this point, we didn't give a shit about any other car because the pedigree of the Mustang.
Yeah.
So, but I didn't want the group to be that way. So I was like, well, and then people like, you know, S and S, right? Like synonymous names. So I was like, well, Streetcar Shenanigans is eventually what kind of came off my mouth. I'm like, oh, it's perfect. So we made this Facebook group, like 3,000 people joined it overnight. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is so crazy, you know? And then
There's like people from all over the world.
yeah.
It wasn't just the
Oh,
US.
shit.
Yeah. And the group's still there. In fact, the rapid growth of it made it bad because it actually hurt it more than it helped it. Reason being, it got like 6,000 people in there really fast, but people would join, and then you would just go and turn your notifications off because every single person was like, hey, here's my streetcar. And and everybody was like, man, all I see is this guy's group. So, but the name is still like what was important, you know. And then the Tramp was hurt at that time. When I was coming back, it had a fuel pump relay die with my brother driving it, and it nicked the motor. And I decided to start a YouTube channel and stuck with the name.
Right.
So I kind of documented like version 17 of the Tramp or whatever it was at that time. And then Dan really liked 03 Cobras. He bought an 03 Cobra. We started to document that. And then we started taking on some side work. And then it snowballed from Dad's garage to 600 square feet to 3,000 square feet to now 4,500 square feet with a couple of guys.
No shit. Okay, so Chris and I always love this side of the story. I think, buddy, I'll speak for you here, but I think your mind's probably already going where mine is. So how do you go from selling whatever it was you were, right? And then transitioning into full-time, we're blazing our own trail, we're doing Streetcar Shenanigans full-time.
Well,
And or did it happen quickly, slowly? Like, you know what I mean? Lay that out for us.
Maybe
I
3
think
years.
we started, like, what was it, 2018-ish?
Yeah, I think
2018, we were like kind of dabbling with it part-time, and that was when we were working on our own cars a little bit. Then we have, a couple here and there of family friends who had one of our first ones, like a 67 fastback, like resto car that we kind of fixed up and worked on that, and then slowly started dabbling with more and more. And then as that, once we moved, we could only do 2 cars, one really at a time in Dad's garage. And then we kind of like, okay, well, then we'd have 3 or 4 people. Hey, can you work on mine or my buddies or this? And it's like, okay, well, we got a few more. And at that time, it was like, okay, well, can we offset obviously the rent cost of a shop to do this?
Yeah.
So we obviously still had our income to help that as well. Then we moved into that.
And what were you doing, Dan, at the time? What were you doing for work?
I was a mechanical engineer.
Okay, nice.
Yeah. So I went to school for that. And so I was doing that part-time, that full-time, and then this we were doing part-time. And we were I would bounce around from like Park Ridge area. So it was like an hour away roughly, south of here. So I would drive up here, we would do that. I don't know, it was
a lot of hours.
a lot of hours. I mean, Wednesday night, basically after I got off work from Wednesday, and then Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Pretty much as much time as reasonable for what we were doing at the time.
I mean, the amount of stories that you see that are like, you got to put the work in and you got to hustle and you got to put in the long out. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
So are you both single guys, or were you single guys at the time?
No. Oh, Dan, you were.
I was like in and out. Yeah.
We're not actually married, but I call her my wife, or I call her my baby mama. But so we now have a child. And that's kind of like taking my perspective back a little bit. Because I would say up until that point, we were still like last year. We just started to like chill a little bit, stop with the 1-2 a.m. all the time for like normal builds. Like when it's race time around here, like right now, I wanted to get this podcast done with you guys, because if we didn't do it like right now, we're not going to do it until February or March once sick week is over, because this car and Bob's car, which is on the other side of the camera right now, are going to take like 110% of every minute of our life for the next 3 weeks to get them prepared to race. But anyway, so mine actually kind of got thrown for a loop because I met her in Philadelphia. So that's where I was living. And I didn't have a car, and I didn't have a garage, and I didn't really do car stuff. I had an SRT8 Jeep and had a GSX 1000. So, obviously I was into the speed stuff, but it wasn't like wrenching on them. I just got in them and drove them. And then when it came here, I was like, hey, my life's a little bit different here. It got right back into cars. And then, but she's adapted well. I think 2 years ago, was it last year? We bought her an E30. Yeah, last year. So she bombs around in an E30, yeah, which is super cool. It's got a nice stereo. It's lowered. It's on RPF ones. It's got RS4 tires on it. It's a blast. It's like a BMW foxbody. Yeah. I mean, the way it's constructed is extremely similar, and the wiring style is similar. I mean, it's like, this is perfect.
90s stuff.
Yeah. And it's lighter than the foxbody.
Little go-kart.
So, so now when we go to shows and stuff like that, she's got something to drive. And then Dan retrofitted a S197 baby seat brackets in the back. We welded in the bracket and everything. So we put my son Johnny in the car seat in the back, and we just mob.
Nice.
Fuck yeah. So how old's your son then?
Now he's 9 months.
Yeah. Oh shit. So like brand new, damn near.
Yeah, he's still brand new. Yeah, he's probably been faster than a lot of people already. Yeah,
he's still under warranty.
Yeah.
He seems to love the cars, that's for sure.
Yeah.
Well, he probably doesn't have much choice, but that's not a bad thing either.
He hasn't, right. He hasn't screamed yet. He hasn't screamed in the car. He kind of just lulls himself to sleep.
Yeah, you love a strong
Dude,
neck. Oh,
We just had a road. We had a road trip from. I just got back last night, so I'm a little scatterbrained. But we just got back from Philadelphia. We went and visited her family for Christmas, and he didn't want to fall asleep in the car. I'm like, well, I guess we got to put a louder exhaust on because he doesn't have a problem falling asleep in any of the other cars that we normally drive. But.
right. Yeah, that's definitely a game changer, buddy. I got 3, none of which as young as yours now, but 9, 13, and 15. And throwing kids in the mix changes your perspective in so many different ways, right?
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to the late nights and it sounds like you and your gal have a great relationship, right? And you probably picked the right one. She's understanding, she gets the deal, whatever. But throwing kids on top of that is always it's a Cookie Monster scenario. You don't really know what you're going to get, right?
Yeah.
And
Take
so
it as I can get it, I guess, right?
yeah, managing that's interesting, but no, that's cool, guys. So like, how long have you been flat out full time? Like, so Dan, you would have said, okay, I'm not doing my mechanical engineering gig anymore, probably in around the same time, Nick, that you were like, fuck this sales gig, I'm out, we're gonna go
Yeah,
build
it was
cars.
pretty close. Yeah, like 2018, like we started around there, 2017, 2018-ish. We were doing that, and then we were at this 600 square foot shop. That's when we were both part time, and we're like, okay, we're outgrowing this. We can only work on that. Was even we can only really work on one car, and even though it was a little bit bigger, we had ended up having a lift in that space.
Yeah, we mainly got the spot for a lift.
Yeah.
We're like, we need a lift.
Yeah.
So we got that exactly, and it was close to the house where we were where his parents lived, so it was an easy commute to do all that stuff. So we were doing that, and then we're like, okay, we got to move. We got to find a bigger spot, and then it'll be in a space up north, a little north of there, right on the border of Wisconsin, Illinois, and that was July of 2019. Was kind of when I got to the point where I was, financially, I was like, okay, we can do this. I can, we can support myself, and we can support, to kind of make the jump to going full time into this. So put in the 2 weeks, and the 4th of July weekend of 2019 is when we basically jumped ship and kind of went full time into this. That's when we got 2 more lifts, I think. So we had 3 lifts over at the new space, which was, like you said, 3,000 square feet. Then we had a couple of buddies that come out, hang out, help out, and do what we can do. And then that's kind of where from there, now it's been.
You got to gamble, for sure.
We had to do it. It was the time we had everything saved up to do it, and we kind of just took the leap. We had a lot of, obviously a lot of friends and family, not like backing, but emotionally, like, hey, just do what you can do, and if it's needed, then hey, you guys gave it a shot. And it was a good run, but yeah, it's been a blast ever since, obviously. So obviously there's a little stresses here and there, but the freedoms and the joy that come from it outweighs that tenfold.
Oh, 100%. Okay, boys, a little bit of a personal question, but because I know there's a lot of people that listen to us, because Chris and I we've got similar stories to you guys. I think a lot of people want to try to, there's a lot of people that are living the lives they don't want to live, right? And they want to do something like you guys are doing that they love, and they can work till 2 a.m, get back up again at 6 a.m, fucking get in there, give her, right? And so the personal question I was going to ask you is, at the time that you guys made the leap, how much money did you have saved up to approximately to be comfortable with making that leap? Or maybe timeline. How long do you think you could have survived if you did not bring in another penny?
So the sales role that I was in at that time was not the one that was in Philadelphia. So I came back, I did some more stuff. And I was actually doing mortgages at the time, so I was in outside sales. And I was working and doing the shop. And then as the brand started to become the brand, like I was showing up to the office and Streetcar Shenanigans stuff, and my boss and mentor at the time, which I owe the world to, one day was like, hey man, I need to talk to you. And we talked, and I was like, I'm firing
The
you.
hoodie and the beanie aren't cutting it anymore. We need to fucking up our games here.
No, he was just like, you know, he's like, you're I'm just gonna fire you today. I've been watching you, you know, put your effort into what you're doing, and that's where your heart's at, and I want you to do it, you know. So it was kind of like I kind of got pushed into it, and I was like slowly transitioning anyway, right? I was just kind of seeing how long, you know, taking care of what I had going on. But you know what, when that time frame started to come up, I was like, all right, Dan, if we're gonna do this for real, like we need to have really low overhead expenses, because if something goes wrong, we can't just go buy expensive houses on the income that we have now, because that's all going to go away, you know, and for how long, we don't know. So, and since I was in mortgages, I kind of knew that you had to have 2 years. Getting a loan when you're self-employed is kind of tough, right? So you're like, it's a whole different ball game. Let's just like find some cheap houses now. Let's purchase some houses. So we actually live like 2 blocks away from each other. We, you know, popped off 2 houses really quick in this neighborhood. So we're like, okay, at least now we're not going to rent for the next inevitable how long, right? So that actually worked out pretty good in our favor, because the housing market's so crazy now. It was like right before that. So that was a twofold. But we got like, you know, small homes. We were not paying $2,500, $2,800 a month. I got plenty of friends that are, you know, making that kind of living, let's say, you know, that are house poor. Yeah. Like for them to be like, well, I'm going to quit my job tomorrow because I hate my boss and I'd rather go work on race cars, is not even like a thought process in their mind anymore, because they're just, you know. So I didn't really have a whole ton of money saved up. You know, if I had to put a number on it, I don't know, 20, 25,000, you know, you had off to the side to, you know, cover expenses. But it was really like pivoting ourselves to be like, all right, if we're going to do this, let's try to make our nut a couple grand. You know, all of our expenses, you know, let's get the cars paid off. Let's not have any loans. So if we have a couple dry months, we're not scrambling to find a gig somewhere else. You know, that's like my biggest fear, is like, I got to go back to work for somebody. Like, I don't want to ever do that, you know? So
yeah, it's pretty much the same thing. Yeah. Like, 25, 30, and kind of been like, like you said, I bought a house right before. I still had all the paper income on a W-2 and everything there. So it was like, you know, get all the loans and everything figured out. And I was like, okay,
good thinking. Yeah, I like it.
If this is gonna, like you said, if it's gonna happen, then once I reach that like 30-ish number, I'm like, okay, let's do what we can do. And that was enough to start, you know, if we needed to buy any big equipment, it was enough for that. And then obviously still enough to, like you said, cover our expenses that we tried to keep, you know, to a minimum, because at the time I think I was single, so I had like, you know, myself, and I was able to be pretty frugal with everything, and you know, only spend what's 100% necessary.
So what do you think, if you guys wanted to do it now, what would that 25, 30, like what would your scenario need to look like, do you feel?
That's a tough one, because obviously everything's astronomically increased in price.
Well, I mean, we haven't increased our overhead at all. I mean, we still live in those same houses, you know. So it's not like we're like, oh yeah, we're making bank and we're spending a bunch of money now. We're still like, let's keep it easy. We from day one, every dollar we made got put back in. So it was like, okay, what do we need to buy now? What's next? What's going to help us next? What's going to help us next? What do we have already that needs to be better? You know, so, you know, it's like Dan. So the way that we kind of split the shop is, I do fabrication and tuning primarily, and more the sales side, because I kind of have that. And then Dan is like wiring, plumbing, and like just overall shop management. So, you know, his vision, like we kind of just describe it like macro and micro. Like he's way better at diving into the details, executing the plan, and kind of getting lost in the sauce of what needs to happen. And I'm more like, this is what I think is a really good platform and idea, and this is kind of the general layout, and then he makes it come to life, you know. So it's like it really works well together.
A lot of people say like, don't work with family because it can ruin some stuff, but I mean, we were, like you said, since my uncle had the Tramp, we were like, whatever, 8 and 10 years old, right?
Oh yeah, we're cousins, by the way. We didn't know that.
Yeah, no,
We didn't really bring that up.
Get to that. I'm glad you brought it up, boys. Yeah, so you got the relation in there too. And how far apart in age are you?
3 years.
3 years. You're younger, Dan?
Yep. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he's 90,
Cool.
he's 91, I'm 94.
Okay. Yeah. Boys, I gotta just pause this thought process for a minute and commend the shit out of you, because at your guys' age, I'm 44, so I got 10 years on you, right? Or 10 on Nick and a few more on Dan. So like at that age, I
That would have been 8-9 years ago.
Yeah, I was definitely up to my asshole in corporate shit. It was a pretty good gig that I had, but you know how it goes when you're working for somebody else, especially now that you've had a taste of working for yourselves, right? You're just any entrepreneur's biggest fear is having to fucking punch in for some other asshole again, right? Never, ever, 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 ever. But it was an all right gig and bills were getting paid and whatever, but you just, I don't know, there was a part of your soul that's missing, right? And it doesn't matter how big or how small, it feels like an 800-pound gorilla with a fucking 25,000 calorie diet. It just needs to be fed, Yeah. And for you guys to have figured that out and to have the nuts to do it at your guys' age, hats off, man. Us two graybeards sitting here with you didn't have the balls to do it until we were in our 40s. So you guys are way ahead.
However, I do want to say that there's something interesting about the timing in this scenario. And that is because I knew 2017, 2018, that's when I got an itch. I was foxbody-less for a long time. I took a big breather, and then being overseas definitely didn't help. But then I started buying stuff remotely, and then I built my silver notch in 2017. And that's when the market started to do that thing with fox bodies. The whole, COVID didn't do it. It was already COVID definitely added fuel to the fire, but it was just the natural progression of people's age. It was the guys whose kids are off to school now and sold their 90s muscle cars and that are making more money. That whole natural evolution was starting to come back in the teens of 20 teens, if you will. And I think that's where you guys got really, fortunate being able to do the transition. Me and Gary or whoever else, kind of being able, because it's not just saying, oh, okay, I'm going to do something automotive related. It's actually, I can do something automotive related and on the cars that I grew up with and I'm passionate about. Which makes it even sweeter. So I think, right, if I always say, what if I had done this switch when I was 30? I ask myself that a lot. And, I don't think it would have worked. And, because I did all my live streaming when I was 30. YouTube didn't live stream that. You know what I mean? It was almost ahead of its time. The concept wasn't there. Fox bodies were literally worth nothing. I was just, I was younger and just maybe my mindset wasn't there. So I know, even though me and Gary are huge advocates for cut the corporate world and do what you want to do, I think there's some natural timing and circumstances in your life that just magnetically the forces kind of come together, and it'll just, like you said, your mentor Nick was just you're fired today because you're going to do better over there, you gotta
go. You gotta go do what you're chasing.
You're driving. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And you know what I mean? I know me and Gary, we talked about, we were kind of going through similar things in our corporate worlds, kind of force fed, same thing that just kind of let us go. And we're well, whatever, sweet,
Yeah, right.
So yeah, it's weird how that works. It really is. Cause and that's why I asked the question about if you guys were to do it now, how easy or how challenging would it be? Because I think it would be really challenging for some people to just say, you know what? Yeah, I'm going to open up shop tomorrow, start from scratch. And it doesn't matter if you're 25 or 55 in this market. It would be a pretty scary leap, I think. for most.
Yeah,
It was pretty crazy because we started with doing, obviously, you said the YouTube videos and started doing our own stuff. And that's where we never really advertised or did any of that stuff. We just happened to get people liking what we did and how we built cars. And we actually started with predominantly 0304 Cobras. We had God knows how many we started with mine, and then people were like, hey, call up, like, hey, I want Dan's car, I want whatever, and it was just like the progression from that, and it was all outside people, not even from our area. It was
like
people
literally
from
like
all over
everything was
the
shipped to
country.
us.
Yeah,
We didn't work on any local cars for the first
yeah, it was pretty wild.
2-3 years, aside from like people
Really?
that really knew us.
Yeah,
But yeah, I mean, we took in stuff all like crazy, but you can only do 1 or 2 at a time. So when I say we didn't do any, and all of our projects, starting from the last project in that shop was a Gen 1 Lightning that got pretty extravagant pretty quickly. It turned out to be a 860 wheel horsepower F1A 94 Pro Charge 427 dark block. Like that was the end result. And we had a stage in there in the middle that was NA, and it made for something. And so like that one was when we took, all of a sudden it went from like full tilt boogie IRS Cobra kits like in the rear end and lower fuel system jobs to like, holy shit, these guys can do a bunch of custom work. And we're moving into the new shop. Then we started to get a little bit more. Then the local word got out. Now we don't really take cars from outside because now the local market has been penetrated. So it's like it was a weird transition. That would be my biggest worry now, is that if you wanted to say, hey, you know what, I want to work on performance cars and I'm going to start my own thing. It's kind of tough, man, because like we kind of built the reputation off of fixing. I mean, out of the amount of cars that are in here, like 4 of them right now are brought them somewhere else, asked for this, was promised, asked for A, was promised A, received Z, spent bazillions, and then it shows up here and it's like, well, they didn't know what they were doing. Like, that's the only answer I have for you. There's no bar to entry in the performance world, unfortunately. There's there's no certification. It's just literally if the guy can say, yes, we're the right one. So, once we started racing, we got a little bit more of the racing guys, but really documenting, sorting out projects is kind of what did it.
Right.
And it would be hard. I guess what I'm saying is it'd be hard to start from scratch doing that, because you have to have somebody be like, yeah, hey, see if you can fix mine. You really got to do like all the work, all the pieces of the puzzle, which is, for us, it's like, well, if we build a YouTube channel and we have this Facebook group, maybe it'll give you a little bit of authority, when somebody's like, oh, I looked you guys up and you got 7,000 followers, not 27, So like, kind of building some credibility on the social media side, help people get that comfort. Like, all right, I've done this once before with somebody that I was recommended to and it went terribly, but it looks like you guys know what you're doing. So I'm going to do that. And that's where we are. That's how the business model still works to this day.
Yeah, that I know there's definitely something resonating about like all of the kind of ingredients aligning all at the same time, right? But I think one of those main ones, especially with the world we live in today that is so social media heavy, right, is having that ability to just put stuff out there, have a little bit of an audience that's going to see it and hear it and understand it. Because it's like these conversations on here, right? I mean, we've been shooting from the hip for like 200 plus episodes. And I think whenever you listen to someone think their way through things, discuss topics, ask questions, whatever, you can get a feel for who you're dealing with, versus you go into some hot rod shop that, some guy at the local car meet told you about, and you got 3 minutes to get a feel for this person, right? It's like, I don't know, I think I trust them. Like, fuck, they say they can do it, right?
Right.
Bazillion dollars later, project turns into Project Z, and it's a fucking disaster, right?
Over and over and over again. Rinse and repeat.
100%. Yeah. So yeah, to your point, I think there's definitely something to that too. And not being afraid to put yourself out there either, right? Like if you're a personable guy and, in the middle of your video, you're like, yeah, this fucked up on us, right? And here's how we're going to fix it. Being honest. And I don't know. I think there's a bit of a formula there, right? But not everybody has it. I don't know. Yeah. Starting out from square one.
And like our YouTube channel has like never been big, and it doesn't have a ton. I guess for a long time I took a break off making the YouTube videos. And like Tom's is probably, I did a Mach 1 review recently with another customer that loved that car. That thing turned out awesome. And we did a lot to do with the powertrain. He did pretty much everything else. But we did like a really formal, more production based, like gimbal, Canon camera, the mics, all that stuff. It just takes so much time, to produce that quality. Where Tom's video with the dyno thing, I was like, you know what? I'm just gonna shoot it with my phone. I'm gonna edit it with my phone. Everything. I'm gonna do the thumbnail with the phone. Like I'm doing everything from the phone because I need to be putting that content out there because I want to share what cool shit that we're doing, but I can't dedicate the amount of time it takes to produce these high level videos. I still want to do them, like video and audio quality of the phone versus like a DSLR is like night and day difference, but the time of getting it done in a couple hours versus a few days is well worth it.
Yeah. Well, and I think Chris and I talk about this quite often, like on the YouTube theme is like, I think it's more, especially for our genre of people, like gearheads, right? It's more about the substance than it is don't get me wrong. I know what you're trying to say, Nick, like,
Right.
Good sound helps and good lighting helps and all these things help, but like the substance of what that video is presenting is more than anything. It's 95% of the video, right? So, and to your point, yeah, you got a fucking beauty of a rig sitting there that you can just pound this thing out with quick and whatever. Everybody loves dyno videos too, right? Like you're sitting on the edge of your seat the whole time. Is it going to let go? What are the numbers? Like on and on and on. So,
and I guess that's what I meant to bring up. I lost my train of thought. Is that we've never had like, we don't really have like viral videos. We have a couple that burnout videos or whatever that did really well, but it's just like if 500 people watched it, one of those people have one of those cars and they're looking for somebody to work on it, and then that person calls us.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? It's like 270 views. I got a video up for 2 days. You guys saw the Loch Ness car, I'm sure. Gray Coyote Swap box body that Tom and I like. Our video that we had on it, even on the dyno, got a ton of inquiries on the car. And then when Tom did that video, I mean, it was like a call a week, like, hey, I want to build that Loch Ness car. And really, I just kind of ended up having a scripted response. I was like, hey, I really appreciate that you liked that video and you liked that car. Are you familiar with building a car from scratch? No, I'm not, but I had an 88 in high school, and now I'm on the hunt for one. I want to be just like that. I'm like, well, in today's money, that's like $150,000 if you want me to find you the car. And I know that sounds crazy, but I'm telling you, I'm gonna just tell you now.
Quick off the cuff number to see if they're serious or not.
Yeah, right.
That ends up happening.
Sorry, going through a tunnel. Click.
Yeah,
because like you were saying with the advertising, like we never did like physical advertising in terms of going and obviously newspapers, dating stuff, obviously, but the YouTube was purely what it was. Like you were saying, you get a feel for someone in 3 minutes, but at least with the amount of people who watched the videos, that allowed them to get a feel for who we were as a shop and who we are as owners of the business and how we run things here, and obviously the quality that comes out of it. So it's like the connection of it all. Like he's saying, you get a couple of calls, like, hey, so and so, I like that car, this car. It just helps. That's the business side of it. Is the YouTube was a huge thing from the get go of why we started all this stuff.
I totally get how it is too. Like you think to yourself, we've got these devices now in our hands that you can go on any web page, watch any video, do whatever you want from the comfort of your couch. Right. So like you're already in a relaxed state and you can appreciate whatever, a part you want to buy or a shop you want to consider or whatever, versus like the old school way of doing it, right? Like driving around, interviewing shops, doing all this bullshit. Like, so yeah, I totally think if you're not doing it, well, probably the only guys that are really doing well in today's day and age without all of that are like the old boys that are pretty much ready to pack it in, right? Because they've been doing it so long and they got a reputation from street racing back in the day or rebuilding carburetors or whatever it is. And they're just the guy that the word is spread over time, right? But I was going to actually, as I say that, it reminded me of what I wanted to ask you earlier, guys. Like, probably being out on the track every once in a while didn't hurt your scenario either.
No,
right?
That's another, like, a huge thing. Our customer service that we say we provide, you know, we stand behind anything that has a sticker on our sticker on their car. We pretty much stand behind as much as we possibly can. And you know, people at the track, obviously a lot of promoters we go to the races, they notice and they commend us for, you know, doing that. Be like, hey, we don't see anybody else that actually stands behind each and every car that they have at the event.
We show up to an event or a race weekend, and I mean, no joke. I mean, we're bringing 12 cars. I mean, it got to the point, like, this year we had some weird stuff. You know, obviously I had Johnny, and then we had the shop. We got kicked out of the shop, and we had to move the shop within a 10-day window after Sick Week or Sick Summer because we had to participate in that. We had 15 cars in Sick Summer. So it's like, it's just it's a zoo, and it got to the point where like the promoter's like, hey, are you guys coming this weekend? And if you're coming, like, how many are you bringing? You know, and it's
right.
So it's pretty cool, but we're staying on the line with all these guys. We're giving them input on the suspension changes to make on the car. I'm in and out of pretty much every laptop. I mean, 10% of my tuning clientele that's racing is modifying stuff on their own, which means that 90% of them are requiring some kind of laptop help at some point during their racing season. And some of those are, and then it's actually like talking about the magnetic of the situation, like the world works in mysterious ways. Talking about this, I'm not sure if you guys have noticed, there's like a lot of chatter, let's call it, about sponsorships on the internet. Like what is really the tit for tat from influencer to get free stuff, and like what should you be offering and doing? So we always get it all the time. I mean, if I had a nickel, we wouldn't even have to work on these things. Like, oh, sponsor my car for this, or when you guys going to work, sponsor me for that. Like, we don't sponsor anybody anything. Like, and what I mean by that is, like, I'm not going to go up to you guys, for example, you're at the local, hey, bring it to the dyno. Let's throw it on the dyno. Let me bang on this thing all day on Saturday. Try to figure out your bugs for you, and then go tell everybody how awesome I am. Don't worry about it. I'm not going to charge you. We can't function that way. I mean, we can get into a whole conversation on how thin the margins are of a performance shop, but like, they're thin. So our sponsorship is making sure that what you are investing your money into, your toy, your hobby, you're successful at it. I don't want you to spend 30, 40, 50,000 with us, and then you don't know what you're doing, and you go to the track and you look like a buffoon because you're just learning, which everybody looks like a buffoon. Everybody learns. But I want your first day out to be like, holy cow, I can't believe this is going so smoothly. Well, it's only going smoothly because we're here, sponsoring your program to be like, hey, this is how you do it. This is how you lay it out. And some guys take that and run, and they are successful on their own. And other guys are like, what do I got to do to get you to come back next time? And that's like a whole nother avenue of where our business is growing into, which is, a whole lot of track support.
Right. Oh, that's cool. It's funny. Hey, like, I guess all the old boys out there tell you, like, the world always comes full circle. And when you look at, say, what your guys' business model or what you've just explained, where it's just like old school, you get what you pay for, but it's in that like handshake, I'm never going to let you down type manner, right? And versus the world spun out of control in the completely opposite direction for how many years, right? Where like even a brand new off the shelf aftermarket part is shit, and you're probably going to need to replace it a weekend owning it, if you even get to that point with it. Maybe it's shit right out of the box, right?
Right.
Yeah, and like everybody's got horror stories of that these days, right? Versus just go back to the old school way of doing things where, you know, handshake deal, you get what you pay for. And as long as you're part of the Streetcar Shenanigans family, we're never going to let you down, right? Or we'll do anything we can within reason, right? To make sure that things go off without issue.
Yeah, and we've done things out of reason just because, you know, that's how we are. You know, the most out of reason situation would be Six Summer last year, 2 years ago. We won with Bob's car. This is Bob's car. I don't know if I can mess anything up here. If you haven't seen it, that's black.
Oh, wow.
SN95 car. It's not a fox body, but it is a fox body. It's just a bubbly fox body.
Yeah.
But that's a 2-time stick shift sick week or Six Summer winner. But the first one that we won, it had a 363. It's got an F1X Pro Charger. It's we run at the track on C16 at the on the street. It's on 93 octane. It was a R block. It was about 10-1. It was like 9-1. It had a little dish in the pistons. It was an R head, which I'm not sure if you guys are familiar, but it was like the R head's a little bit older, right? Not the 11R, the new stuff, the older R head.
Okay,
which is not a very it's not a very common cylinder head because you needed to add weight. If you ran that head, it has a canted valve, just like I think it's an 11 and 14 instead of the normal 20. So it's slightly off, but you would have to add 50 pounds to race an NMRA. So nobody really got behind that cylinder head because of you had to add weight to your car, and it didn't really perform to offset the weight. However, Bob's car had R heads, and my personal car had R heads. So when we went down, we tested the night before, 2 days before going to Six Summer, which is local to us, luckily. Six Summer happens like in our backyard. Our home track is one of the tracks that they participate at. And you guys are familiar with drag and drive?
Yeah.
Okay. So if anybody doesn't know, right, you got to drive your car from track to track and compete. Now, 3 years ago, people were like, what the hell's drag and drive? Now it's like, yeah, I know what it is. Shut up.
Well, but I mean, there's different versions too, though, right? Like, are you guys hauling your tires with you, or like, can you have a chase truck and all that shit?
No chase vehicles. Not a lot of chase vehicles. We have a trailer behind most of them. Like I said, last year we had 12 or 14 entries that were flying Streetcar Shenanigans. So we were helping a lot of people, and 80% of them have a small trailer that you tow behind it. So you put your drag radials on it and stuff. One of the fastest cars we brought though did not. He left his drag setup on it the whole time, and he learned that he is going to put swap setup is worth it. But anyway, so we went testing the Saturday before that event started, which is a week-long event, and Bob's car made noise in the burnout box. And I was like, that's weird. And he came down idle, and I'm like, all right, sounds normal. I'm standing off the front driver fender while he's in the burnout. And I go, all right, try again. And it's a face-plated T56 Magnum with an adjustable clutch. So it's pretty rowdy. And he gets it up on the chip again and gets it in the burnout. And I'm like, nope, something's wrong. Something sounds terrible. So we abort mission, go to the shop, start it up, rev it up, valve train related issue. We start tearing it down. Now, once again, we're going to leave in 48 hours to go to Six Summer. And we tear the motor apart. And Bob's like, well, I just had this motor freshened up last year. I have the old cam. I have the old lifter. So if there's something wrong, I might have some parts for it. I said, well, you go get everything you have valve train related for it. And we're going to start tearing this thing apart and see what is wrong with it. And sure enough, like 3 lifters were something, one must have started and then, kind of snowballed into the ones next to it. But it basically ate the lobes off of 3. It ate 3 lobes off the camshaft. And it was making a ton of noise. It's like, okay, this is good. So he shows up with the parts. This motor previously had some other valve train issues before we started working with them. So that might have been related. But I'm like, all right, we picked out the best set of 16 lifters that we could, bar solid lifter stuff. His camshaft was almost identical to the one that was in it with some rough pitting on it. We you know,
And
polished her up. Yeah. Put her up. And I think we had it running at night. You know, we put hit the whole top end down, got it all back together. It's got a adjustable belt drive on the front. And then we started to compete on Monday. And Monday, Tuesday, I don't remember the exact timeline, but I think it was race day 2 going to 3. We had a 4-hour drive from up near us down to Iowa. It was like a 4-hour haul, the longest haul of the week. And we're driving. It would break. It had aluminum Harlan Sharp rocker arms, and it was always running on too much spring pressure. So before I met him, he broke them like candy, and then he actually had to bow out 1 year because he didn't have me with him. He's like, I'm not fixing it. I'm done. Then after that, he was like, hey, I want you to come with me, and then that's when we started partnering it up. Because I was like, I'll take this whole motherfucker apart right now. We're fixing it. You know, we're trucking, which is what happened in Iowa. So we're driving along. We're like 20 minutes from Motion Raceworks.
One of the checkpoints.
That was the checkpoint location. And it made some funny noises. And we have headsets on. You know, he's got side exhaust out of the quarter panel. It's real loud. And I'm like, he's like, oh, do we get another rocker arm? I'm like, no, this is way worse than a rocker arm. I'm like, if it's a rocker arm, it's like a lot of rocker arms. And he's like, oh. So I pull over, and we already had the tools to do a rocker arm in the front seat. You know, we had the extra rocker arms because if it happened, we could do it real quick and just get back and go. And we had a bunch of spares. Pull a rocker arm on the pull the driver's side valve cover off. There's tips of valves, titanium valves with hardened tips. There's tips of they're scattered all over. There's 5-6 broken rocker arms there. I mean, it's just broken valve springs, just total carnage. I'm like, man, we just took this whole thing apart 3 days ago. Like, I just did the same project. And he's like, that's all right. You know, we're not going to make it. I'm like, well,
at this time, there was only a handful of stick cars that they were all limited by cage cert. The drag and drive stuff is very safety conscious. So if your cage is certed to whatever, called 750 or 850, you can only go that fast in a quarter mile.
Yeah.
So all the stick cars left were only 850 limited cars. And Bob was sitting number 1 at this time.
Yeah.
And he hasn't won. He's participated in
according
half
to
a dozen.
I was going to say, according to the windshield, like 7 of them at this point.
And we're like, if this is the time, the year before, I think we finished 3rd or summer. Sick week, finished 3rd in Florida. So like, if this is the time to win, this is the time. And we're like, Bob, and that's when Bob's like, I think we should call it. And then
I was like, well, Bob, nobody can go faster than 850. Our average right now is 862. And we have a really good shot at winning. And I have all the parts off of my red car that coincidentally.
I knew you were going to say this, dude. I'm like, brought up those R heads earlier. Holy shit.
Yeah. I'm like, and it's all fresh, ready to go to put my car back together. I'm like, it doesn't have titanium valves and it's hydraulic roller stuff, but I'm like, if the cam is good, then I'll swap your springs, I'll swap everything, right? And he was like, I don't want to do that. I'm like, he's like, eventually I talked him into it, is what it came down to.
It was all sitting here at the shop, which is like 3 hours away.
Yeah, so without getting too tied up in the rules, we found somebody who would help us, because you only have certain people help you. And I was like, all right, well, this is where you're going. I'll call our friends that hang out at the shop and my dad, and they're gonna give you 2 big plastic crates with pretty much everything we need to do this job and bring it back.
Yeah, we started tearing it apart while they were running, and
we did it, man. We rebuilt the whole thing and then showed up at the racetrack the next day, and I think we went PB the next day. Maybe it was 2 days later, but we ended up running the fastest the car ran at that up to that point with my stuff on it versus his.
Unreal.
But yeah, I mean, it was like completely unreasonable, dude. I mean, it was like we fired it up at like 7:30 in the morning. Sleeping
there at that point, I was with another customer in the event, so I had to go because I was like, okay, we got to go. So I helped as much as I possibly could, and I left, and they were laying in the Motion parking lot, sleeping, whatever they could do to try and muster their way through all of this.
Yeah. We fired up in the morning. I revved it a couple times. I'm like, all right, let's go. We didn't really sleep, 30, 40 minutes. But it just, that's like that will go down in streetcar history as, and then to go on and we won the event. We won the stick shift class.
Yeah.
And then Drag and Drive, the Drag and Drive podcast, Drag Driver Pete, They kind of run the award ceremony at PRI. They gave us toughest roadside repair also, so it was pretty cool.
Nice.
Little
Yeah.
award for it.
Yeah.
Not even Bob's. I mean, that year we only had maybe half a dozen cars for sick week or sick summer that year, and even that leading up to that event, we had. We stayed up. I think we stayed up like 40 hours straight.
Yeah. We were making plumbing lines on another car, and it was like
you said, going above and beyond. We had a few cars that obviously they have all their maybe not as much time invested into making their car together, but obviously a lot of money, and we don't take that lightly. Obviously you guys invested all your money into doing this and invested in us to do it. We're gonna do all we possibly can to get your car there. So that literally, like he was saying, we were rebuilding Bob's car, and I was putting together 2 or 3 cars, and we were up for 36 to 40 hours straight,
going into a week of no sleep. It's nuts, man.
So
if you guys have done drag and drive stuff,
it's wild.
We got the we got the Canadian Chuck
We've
Norris
done shipbox drive stuff.
Yeah.
The two of us have done a couple of long hauls. One that maybe didn't resemble it quite as heavily as your guys' rebuilding in a parking lot, but put a car together that had no business being put together, and drove it from Austin to Detroit.
That's a cruise.
That was an event. Yeah, same idea though, right? Like way behind schedule. Fucking drove straight. Like the only time anybody got any sleep was we changed every fuel stop. One guy slept, one guy drove just flat out the whole way. But that shit's fun, right? Like we talk about it all the time, how like this is the type of shit that'll be said at your funeral,
Right. The roadkill-esque stuff.
Yeah. Just
and
iconic
like,
moment.
That's just it. I mean, I know we're a certain cut of cloth type of guy, but like that puts a smile on my face that knowing someone's gonna fucking say that at my funeral. Like,
and like who else do you know that's not in like this genre that does shit like that?
That's just it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like even in a different genre of hobby, of extreme hobbyists, I can't really connect often on something like that,
Yeah, it's so true. It actually reminds me, I'm blanking on the names of the shows, but they were quite big a handful of years back. I know Chip Foose had one. Remember where they'd go around and like they'd have a whole scene where they're going to steal somebody's car and then they were going to restore it and get it back to them in a certain amount of time. And it was always a race against the clock, right? And one guy's sleeping on the fucking creeper while the other guy's renting it whatever hour. And it's like, you guys are in an air-conditioned shop, sponsored tools, anything you need, right? Like none of this shit's going on the side of the freeway. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like,
so I was thinking
there's something about driving the car you just built, and whether it's racing or not, you just finished your project and you want to take it on the block for the first time. It's just that, let's go.
Yeah. So this like support model, if you will, actually kind of intrigues me a little bit, because like obviously this scenario that you just explained was something, you guys
Very
just did it
exotic.
out of the goodness of your hearts and like the whole situation and everything, and it just whatever you want to call it, but
do it for the love.
yeah, exactly. Versus, you're saying you do these builds and you're going to the track and you're helping with, the tuning and the programming and all that stuff. Like, is that something that's structured as of yet, or is that just sort of like a case by case basis based off the cars that you build? Because like in my head, I'm just thinking of, no offense to any clients or customers out there, but they're different personalities with different expectations and different, you know what I mean? Where it's sort of like, you got the guy that maybe you're going to show him, you teach him how to fish instead of catching the fish for him. Right. And, like, yeah, do you guys have something, or is like that a path that you're considering going down? Or is it sort of like, because it's a little bit different than handing over a streetcar. And I've never really considered that in my mind. It's like, okay, you're building a purpose built race car. There's going to be some expectations here, whether they've raced or not before, but like how do you cut the cord, or, how do you structure it so the cord's still there?
Yeah,
It's such a huge struggle that
we're slowly like getting more professional at it, I would say.
that's the best way to put it. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, in the beginning, like you're saying, I mean, you
feel like I
built
wing it every day.
Yeah,
like,
you built some streetcar, like Tom, for example. I mean, he is gonna have no offense to Tom, but he's gonna have no idea what he's getting himself into in something like. I mean, obviously we put bead locks and drag radial on it, or bias ply radial, so it'll have its best chance of not doing anything goofy per se. But
the wheel and tire choice, because it's like it needs it. Like, does it really need a bead lock? Not really. Will the car go 125, 60 foot? Maybe one day. It needs a couple very simple things, and I think it's capable of doing that. But which is where like bead locks really start to show, is in like the low 30s. But if that thing had the regular pony wheels and the 555Rs that he had on it in the past, or whatever, I don't even know if he had that, S&Ss, the Mickey Thompson S&Ss, that thing is useless with that setup.
It almost comes like even like a safety-ish type of thing, to where like, all right, we'll build a car. Obviously, Tom knows that we can obviously have our own cars and we can drive them pretty well. So he's like, okay, you can take me for a ride in it, kind of show me the whereabouts, what the car does in these certain situations, and what I need to know going down the road for any scenario, more or less. That's just for the street cars. Well, now now build into a race car. We do have some customers who, again, want us to shake their cars down. So we'll take them down the track, make sure they're doing what they need to do. Like, hey, I want the car to go X. We will do what we can to make that happen. And once we get it to that point, we'll be like, okay, your car does this. We know your car can do this. Now you get in the seat, and we'll slowly start ramping in the power, whether, and you can get comfortable with it. We're not going to throw it to you on kill right away. We'll slowly be there to support and make sure that, hey, we shut it down. We made sure, obviously, we've driven down the track with other cars before. We're making sure it's going to go straight. It's not going to, the alignment's not off or anything goofy like that. We just want to make sure that it's all good for them and they go in. And then we also have the people that are like, hey, you built me the car. I want to be the one to be in it the whole time. You guys just tell me what needs to happen. And that's great too, obviously. And then we have the people who are like, all right, you built, I'm out of here.
But now imagine the time. I mean, imagine how much time those higher level cars that are, or the higher level, I should say the higher level client that needs more attention. It's a big chunk of time. So to your point of like, how do you structure it? It's still kind of on the horizon. We have to figure it out, because it's becoming more and more popular. And I think it's really starting. This is how it's kind of changed the shop from doing blower fuel systems. Like, there's a lot of those types of shops, and I'm not knocking those guys, but I'm actually envious of those guys, because margins are high. Like, those are pretty simple. You can have a kind of a run-of-the-mill guy doing those kinds of projects. You know what I'm saying? Like what we do, there's not a lot of people that are.
There's no book. There's no.
You're not gonna like call somebody, hey man, how do you leave your dealership gig and come over here and build some race cars with us? It just doesn't really work. So
the worlds are vastly different. But they're both.
Yeah. So how it kind of has to change structure is like setting the car up from the very beginning. So we could use Tom's car, even though Tom's car is not a race car. We'll use it as an example again. Tom's car has front wheel speed, rear wheel speed. It has variable clutch position location sensor. So it's got like a shock travel sensor on the clutch. So like we know, and brake switch, all the stuff that when you buy a Terminator X as a normal Holly or standalone entry user, you're not even thinking that ECU needs or can use. You know what I'm saying? Like it's super basic. So when somebody calls and says, hey, can you tune my car? It's this. Well, does it have CO2 boost control? Are you going to race? First thing, are you going to race it? Yes, I'm going to race it. Do you want to be competitive when you race it? Yes, I want to be competitive when you race it. It's like bloop, 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 because All right, you want to be competitive? Does it have these 5 things on it? No, it doesn't have those 5 things. Okay, you need those 5 things or you're not going to be competitive. So it all starts now, we're learned, it all starts at the bottom. Because when the guy shows up with his Dominator and it doesn't know anything that the car is doing aside from telling it how much fuel and how much spark, it's not going to set him or us up for success or efficiency to try to figure out how can we navigate this together. So as far as where to cut the cord, it's like, this is where we cut the cord. You got to get all this stuff. Then you can kind of be on a fam. So everything that is flying a SSP sticker and is out there competitively racing has hit a lot of those minimum milestones of what it's going to take for us to be able to effectively help your program.
Right. So
and
do you think
do it? You know, the whole like time part is the hard part. You know, I might spend 10 minutes on your car at the track, and I think, oh, don't worry about it. It only took me 10 minutes, but it could have taken that guy all summer to figure out how to fix that problem.
Yeah.
Well, so as far as like kind of figuring out the value perspective of that avenue of business is something that we haven't really figured out.
Yeah, that's why I asked, because, you know, as I think Gary has mentioned it, actually, you guys were saying, right, with margins and everything else, like parts is very limited. Like there's almost, and then I don't know if you guys manage to, maybe you can mark up or put retail because you have an account somewhere or something, that the same price that the customer would pay essentially is what you end up charging for parts. So it all comes down to labor, and we've seen again, I'm not sure what your guys' mechanical hourly rate is, and I'm sure it differs. I know for me personally, it's, you know, somewhere over here, but the reality between some of learning curve or troubleshooting or shit you're not going to charge the customer for, like, it balances out, right? Yeah. But with that said, this whole support side of things, being tied to labor, because labor is your time or your experience and your knowledge, there's significant value in that. And, you know, just my mind of thinking, you know, given, say, Tom, the rundown of the Cookie Monster, and everything else, it's just sort of like, oh, okay, that's part of the delivery process of the vehicle. But like, to me at the track, I'm like, holy shit, I'm like, that's a whole other like invaluable service that
the
like,
8-hour day,
like,
somebody who
you got
knows
the
your
right
car better than anybody else.
Because you're mentoring, you're supporting, you're training. And I'm like, man, like that could be like, if your shop rate, like the build is like, I don't know, if you're 150 an hour or whatever it is, I'm thinking you could be like 300 an hour on the track.
Yeah. That's where it comes
up. I try to like look at other people that do that. Like there's a lot of people who do that. Like that's all they do.
Yeah.
You know, they don't build cars. They hop on a plane, they get flown out to whoever's racing, where they're racing, and then, you know, take care of the laptop the whole weekend. And those services are $2,000 to $5,000 for a big race weekend. You know, so when I'm doing it for these, you know, with Dan too, when we're out there doing it for these 10, 12 guys on a Thursday night, and we're just, you know, oh, here's a couple bucks.
But the advantage is you guys know how it's wired, or where that sensor's been plumbed, or how it's plumbed. You know what I mean? So like these other guys that are just showing up,
so it adds to the value even more. Yeah, right.
Like that's something, because they might be like, oh, you got a problem here. And then it's like, well, let me get on the phone to my mechanic now and figure out, you know, how do I adjust this, or how do I access it, or whatever. That's pretty neat side aspect to the whole thing.
Yeah.
Well, and like the Dyna brought that on. Sorry.
That's all good. You know, like you're saying, I mean, like even like how we're trying to be more and more professional with it, because it is difficult, because obviously the way we are as people, when we go to like Nick and I in particular, for going to the track and with the car or with a customer, that we maybe go for one specific customer, but then there's another customer or buddy who's there, is like, hey, can you come look at my stuff? And like you're saying, your time and your value, it's hard. You know, we don't want to be the people like, actually, I need you to, you know,
you gotta book an appointment. Yeah.
You know, it's like hard. It's hard to come to that point. We have not, obviously, like I said, we're still.
Or your customers are going to be at the track and be like, "How much is he paying you? I'll double it." You know what I mean? Auctioned off right there. Make mine faster.
Yeah, this could be another good. This could be another good story for Sorry, buddy. Just a quick little comedic effect here. This could be another side story for the tramp and the whore, right?
Yeah.
How much is he paying you? No, he's going over here. He's getting more money over in this corner.
Well, that's showing up to the events with the cars. Like we're all like, we don't really work. We're lucky, to the point that I don't think there's anybody that I work with or communicate with that I don't like. There was for a while. Like you build some cars for some people, and you're like, all right, well, Lord willing, hopefully I don't have to ever work for that guy again. Next time he calls me, you know what I mean? Go find somewhere else and see how it is on the other side. So that being said, everybody is like a friend, and then we show up like 12. We have customers that never met each other that are now best friends because they came and raced. We're all racing together. So it's like we have kind of built a little racing community of these streetcar guys, especially the drag and drive guys, and it's super cool. But then you're trying to kind of navigate the whole aspect of, well, we are still a business.
Yeah, well, and then you're only two guys, and I mean, boys, I can't help but think if I was a listener of this podcast, I would really be dying to know, like, is it just you two in the shop, or do you guys have any help with the two?
So
of
we
you?
we have one full-time mechanic, Steve. He's got a 69 Charger, which is cool. He street races it, and so he was our first hire and pretty much our only full-time hire, and then he's been with us for like 5 years.
Yeah, he came from a general automotive background and has grown his knowledge tenfold on, he was saying, we don't have a book for anything we do, and we're not performance, like you said. There's no bar to entry. He basically almost relearn, you reteach him everything he knows just because of the way we build things and do things. So it's hard, like you were saying before, it's hard to find people that, get to come in and do these things. And he was one of our first, he was first and currently only full-time hire that we've had that we are, molding to what we, what we do for what we
do. And he has an interest and love for the hobby also, so that's like a number one driving factor. And then recently we do a lot of fab work. So we do, custom turbo kits. I try to stay away from chassis work just because it's really time consuming and honestly it's hard work. My fabrication skill is dirty work. Let's say my fabrication skill is all self-taught, and I did it out of wanting to eventually get to like turbo kits and plumbing and stuff like that. So that's where my interest really is. I don't have a whole lot of interest in chassis work. So, recently that would kind of been our focus for the last year, is keeping an eye out for a welder fabricator. And right now we have a part-timer that has his own thing on the side also that he doesn't really want to let go of. But we're happy that we have him, a couple days a week to kind of fill in on the fabrication side.
Oh, right on. Yeah. Yeah, because I mean, when you think about, well, you guys being the face of this thing, and also being the social media angle of things, the billing, the whatever, the lifeblood of it, really, right? And then you guys are also the ones out standing on the track with all these guys, swapping heads in a fucking parking lot, on and on and on, right? It's like unless you're in one of these situations, it's really hard to appreciate it. But like, there's this feeling that, I don't know, it almost makes me sick to my stomach to think, like, when you are spread way too thin in so many different directions that you don't even know how you're still functioning. And know you guys kind of know where I'm going with this. Like, that's and it's, I don't know, it's kind of a sick addiction too, because I think you almost need that weird genetic malfunction to be like a successful entrepreneur. Like, you've got to be able to function in that environment. However, we all know there's a breaking point to all that, right? Like, whether you get sick and fucking can't move, or your business goes to shit, or one angle of it goes to shit, or whatever. And it sounds like you guys are, when you're running a performance shop too, like, you can't just hire any Tom, Dick, and Harry either, though, right? Like, you really got to be looking for the cream of the crop here,
The tough labor to scale.
Yeah, and I'm kind of answering the question for you here, boys, but like, I don't know. I wanted to try to paint the picture, right? Because what you guys are doing, like for whatever it's worth, I feel you. You know, when you're doing something that you love and it's all yours, but yet you're spreading yourself out over so many things. Like either one thing falls real hard, like you were saying, the YouTube, right? You hadn't done anything with it in a while, but it's just like, we got all these fucking cars. We got to get to sick week. We got to get to what, you know, like we got to pay bills. I got a kid, you know, like all this shit. Yeah. Like,
that is
I mean,
that is kind of how it is. Yeah.
I know. So like, how are you, if you don't mind me asking, like, how are you guys managing? Or do you feel like you were mentioning there, Nick, like you guys shoot from the hip, and I get that too, right? We all do, but are you guys doing all right at it? Like, do you feel like you're making ground, or
I feel like the sustainability of the shop is there, you know, but the problem really comes in. This is what it's going to stem down to, no matter which way we take the conversation from here forward. It's going to be understanding what it takes to build these cars from a consumer level is almost impossible to explain. And what I mean by that is when somebody calls and says, I want a car like X, it's like, well, that car at that time cost $100,000. However, even if I built that same exact car again, it's probably not going to be $100,000. Even if I had to build this turbo kit again, it probably would be, you know what I mean? We've gotten to the point where people want our stuff because all of our stuff is cool, right? Everything we do is cool. We don't have anything really niche specific. We're not making a product. You don't want to buy our product. You want to buy us. You want the outcome of what we're providing, right? Well, at some point, we need to realize, and this is our big thing for current in 2026, which comes back to your topic, is what is the price? How do you explain that to somebody and get them to understand the value of that? Like, Tom gets it 100%, right? Like he's like, whatever it is, I know that we're way beyond what I wanted it to be. We're spending way beyond what I wanted to spend. But how in the early stages of our conversation could I have foreshadowed that? Aside from telling you, like I'll tell everybody over and over again, it is going to be twice or three times more than what you think. Like, it's going to be twice or three times more than what I think, and I do it every day. But that's how these projects go. You know, it just does. It snowballs every time. And then the biggest problem is, and this is where I need to work on, you know, since we're discussing it like this, is that when I call somebody like Darren, this Teal Cobra, which is a former sick week winner, he won last winter, so he's going to defend the title at the end of the month, and he wanted me to do a turbo kit for him. And I said, I have no idea what it's going to cost. You know, our hourly rate is $150 an hour. Materials for something like that, depending on how we decide to lay it out, is going to be between X and Y. And I don't know, you know, I'm going to have to stare at it for like 2 days before I kind of figure out, like, I want it to look cool. It needs to work right. It needs to have wastegate priority. It needs to have, you know, all these things. I go, and then he's like, okay, well, can you get it done in this time frame? I go, no, I cannot. So he brings it somewhere else, right? He goes, but I'm going to bring it to you after because I want you to tune it and I want you guys to be the ones who support it because I met you guys when we were competing against him. He's like, and there's nobody out there like you guys, you know, like, so I want you to be part of my car. I just want to race it at Mod Nats. So the car went somewhere else, got the turbo kit, and then he called me a couple of dates before he was going to bring it here and said, I think I have to add a few things to the list. I'm not happy with what I got. And I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, and I'm like, and I feel bad because I know he just spent hard-earned money on this to try to make this process easier. You know what I mean? That was his intentions. And then when it showed up, I'm like, hey man, honestly, I mean, I don't like this. I like this. I don't, you know, where do you want to draw the line? Do you want me to take it all off? Or do you want me, you know, I really don't want to use anything. What it came down to, you know, and I'm like, so I don't know what to do. And then, you know, at that point, like, it's almost a mutual understanding of, it's like carte blanche from here on out. Right. Like, so I can just have creative freedom moving forward. And then I call him, I say, hey, you know, you put a hole in your fender right here to have the exhaust come out of the side. But when I talked to you about doing the turbo kit originally, you said you wanted to keep the full exhaust on it. And I'm a full exhaust kind of guy on turbo cars. Like, that's sick. That's gangster shit. Let's do that. Why do you have a hole in your fender now when we talked about not doing that? And he was like, well, he kind of talked me into it, and it makes sense because, these reasons that, he's got adjustable clutch stuff. So, to get into the transmission service if needed, it does make a little more sense. And I'm like, well, I mean, if you want, I'll do it, but I think it's way cooler if we put your exhaust back on. He goes, okay. Well, that conversation, which was only 4 or 5 minutes long, was 35 hours at least more work. To get the turbo. Can you see the turbo right there?
Yep.
So there's one there. There's one there. They're twins. It's we'll show you guys, but it's mirror image HPT turbos, and the exhaust comes right out the fender right here, and I could just go down and out this way. It would have taken me 1 day to do both downpipes and have the wastegate pipes go out that way too. However, it's not gangster shit. Like we originally talked, we wanted cool stuff. So putting your Turbo Coyote Fox body, putting the stuff out the fender is what everybody does, Yeah. But that conversation didn't end with, well, how much more is that going to cost and how much longer is it going to take? The conversation went, this is how we should do it because this would be cool. And then he goes, yeah, you're right. That would be cool. Do that. And then we move on. And then when we get to the end of this project, we go, so we have something to talk about, So when you say that there's avenues of the business that are going to fall when you're spread thin, our billing is the worst because we are cranking out badass shit. And we're not going to sacrifice the badass shit being cranked out to call you every 5 minutes and update you. And then you all of a sudden now have jurisdiction over the project, which is the reason you brought it here. It's because you wanted our jurisdiction over the project. So as pompous as it sounds that you almost need a blank check to build a car at this level, I don't want to say a blank check, but you can't spend your last $25,000 building a car that you don't even need. You know what I'm saying?
It's like when you build doing a house remodel or anything like that, you have to have at least an additional 10%, if not more.
Yeah. And a budget is just a fucking goal line, and that goal line is really just a first down marker. And it sucks to say, but it's really what it is.
And I think, like, any shop's goal is to have that blank check build and customer base. At least I would think. It's just, you would hope that at some day you're just, I'm going to build stuff the way that I want it. I'm going to choose my customers and everything else. And like, you got to earn that. You can't just decide that tomorrow. You'll go bankrupt. But like once you've earned your stripes, you've put in the work, and you have those customers that are willing to throw those blank checks at you, I think that that's a great thing. And we can talk more kind of down that avenue, which I think is a very important one. But I do have a question before we go down that road, is that where do you think that leaves the average shop and the average guy that just wants to hot rod these days? Because like, obviously I didn't grow up, like I grew up in the 90s and the 2000s and in my generation, if you will, but it wasn't in the generation before, where I feel like, I mean, we didn't have these Amazon parts. We didn't have, like, there were shade tree mechanics, don't get me wrong. And a $10,000 Mustang was treated like a $10,000 Mustang. It wasn't treated like a $100,000 exotic, because now they are as well. And like the spectrum is just so all over the place. But like, where do you think that leaves those shops now? Because like, we can't talk about before. Like, do you think it's just going to become, it's almost like it's going to implode? Because I think, like, all these horror stories and like these shops doing half-ass shit with half-ass parts, or people trying to save money with half-ass, you know what I mean? All of this stuff. Like, I feel like the shade tree is like amplified, and like, it's just either you're going to have the most unreliable, hacked up piece of shit, or, you know what I mean? It's like removing the middle class. You're either poor or you're rich. And I kind of feel like that's sort of where modified cars is going.
I definitely see that, and I would say, to add on to my, like, we need to have a blank check to come here. We don't really operate that way, you know. Like, I like to say that yes, that is our clientele, but you know, we are bringing that kind of level of build and quality before and after, during the build and after the build, to the people who don't necessarily have blank check money. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, but however, a lot of times that expense is coming out of us. We want the normal person to bring a car here, and maybe they say, hey, I got $10,000 to put a Vortec on my Foxbody, right? And you're like, well, you should have an adjustable pressure regulator. We put a return fuel system on it for the future, because as soon as you have it at 400, you're going to want it at 500. And then, it's like you kind of try to build that snowball, or try to protect yourself from spending money twice. But to the point of what's going to happen, what's in the middle, it's like you got to kind of find somebody. I hope the shade tree stuff, these guys like throwing shit together and getting it out the door, I hope it does kind of crumple. I think that you should pick a shop like almost based on their style, and I feel like that's kind of how we've structured this. Like when you go to Streetcar, you want our style on the build. You're not coming to Streetcar because you want long tube headers on your S550. That's not the shop that you take it to. You take it to somewhere else who's going to put the $4 China gaskets that came in the box, instead of knowing that you should reuse the OEM gasket because it's far superior to the one that comes in the box for free. You know what I'm saying? And those places are going to continue to replace clutches, do long tube headers, and honestly, it is a more profitable business model. And until you could figure out the proper way to set expectations on a project that nobody knows the end to, so that makes it very difficult. And carrying out that process of, hey, this is where we're at today, and this is what we did today, and this is what it costs today. Do you want us to start again tomorrow, or do you want to take a few days off? Because like in my brain at this level, that's like almost the only way you could do it, is debrief it so often,
Yeah.
Where that the middle is like not really us.
Yeah, and getting it at the forefront, and I kind of laughed at the story with the teal car, because it's sort of like, well, how much money did he just burn by trying to save time for the car to ultimately come back to you, and you're going to undo everything that was just paid to be done. And we know the labor wasn't cheap. Like, maybe, I'm sure it wasn't cheap because he was getting it on demand. They were probably aware he had a timeline. So it's like, oh yeah, no, we can do it for this much.
Right.
We know how it goes. And then here you are kind of picking up the pieces. And it's like, okay, maybe he didn't have a blank check, but it's sort of that, well, he didn't have a blank check. He had a reasonable budget, but now he burnt a whole bunch of money that could have been used in so many other ways just to hit a timeline. And it's almost like you wish you had that crystal ball for people when you're having that discussion in the beginning, because to your point of people have no idea, generalizing here, of what it takes to build a car. You know what I mean? And I know I had a twin turbo Coyote notch build, same thing, exhaust out of the same spot, whatever. And the customer that I ultimately found for the car wanted full exhaust. And yeah, it was it had to go up and through the control arm with a little relief for the tie rod end, some trick, you know what I mean? Like a fabricator's dream, but fabricator at a shop that knows what they're doing.
Time and material.
Yeah. Versus, you know what I mean? The shop that was like, oh yeah, no, we can put that in, but we're going to put it in the expressway, and yeah, we'll just cut a hole in the fender. And now this poor guy, like, man, those teal fender extensions on a Cobra are cheap.
Yeah.
And now they got speed holes in them.
Yeah.
Well, I'm going to add, or at least try to add my own little 2 cents to this. Like, I think what you're looking at here is you've got, on one end of the spectrum, we'll just use you guys for the example, on the one end of the like custom car build spectrum. And then you got, like, say your guys' full-time mechanic, just the remover and replacer style shops, right? plug the computer in. Oh yeah, it's this module, it's this whatever. Pull it, put a new one in it and go. And then you got everything in the middle, right? And I think if there is some bad eggs in the middle, don't get me wrong, those are the ones that are full of shit. They'll give you garbage timelines. Well, they'll give you short timelines, right? Oh yeah, we can get it done in a week. Goes to the shop for months, right? And every time I call, yeah, they're waiting on parts, or they're this or they're that, right? I think the point I'm trying to get at here is like, if everybody stays in their lane and is honest with themselves, their capabilities, and they just like provide the service that the client is ultimately looking to get, then all of that little goobery shit in the middle, that guys that are over promising and under delivering, that'll just go out with the wastewater. Like it'll take care of itself.
Oh, yep.
Yeah. But it's the people that are full of shit that wreck pretty much everything in life, right? Let's be honest. But like, if you're in over your head, let me know. Okay. But here's what I'm looking to get done as your customer. And let me know if you can do it.
I think a lot of the problem with that, the only flaw to that is what people think they're going back to my comment, and I use it all the time, is that there is no standard for this industry. So, you know what, a guy in the gooey middle says, this is complete, this is what you asked for, might be okay and what he asked for, or it might be completely he got what he asked for. He wanted a twin turbo kit put on his car in the time frame, but then he got it and put his eyes on it. He goes, this isn't what I wanted. What do you mean it isn't what you wanted? You wanted a twin turbo kit fabricated inside of 2 weeks. That's what you got. Yeah. Well, now you know what I mean. That's where I think the only issue is that the guy who built this turbo kit, it didn't tell him, like, it didn't overpromise and underdeliver, in my opinion. It's just the quality didn't meet what he wanted, and that's where the issue came in. Was there some flaws to the system? Yes. Would it have worked for a street, like you're doing a street beater or whatever, like just a fun street car? Yes, it probably would have worked and it would have made power. I think it had a very high chance of like fracture points, like issues of failing components. I think the wastegates weren't in a very good spot. I think the intercooler setup wasn't very good, but would it have made a race car fast? Yeah. But I don't want you to just have that. I want you to have that plus reliability, plus repeatability. You know what I mean? On top
exceed
of those
expectations.
Things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's where the issue came in. So like, it's almost a good example for that reason, is that it's like, that was kind of a done car. It didn't come here with the expectation of we're going to take all this off. It was just,
right.
Well, what his version had done and what my version had done aren't the same. So now who do we want to align?
Key, hey?
Yeah.
Perspective's key. And like the shop, I think it's more on the shop than anyone. You got to have like kind of that weird little cross-threaded bolt in your head that can play shrink, and you can interpret what the client's looking for, help steer and manage like where they're going, and they might not even know what they want. I mean, hell, we could start talking about our better halves, right? Like, how often does your wife even know what she wants for fucking dinner, right?
Yeah.
So hope she doesn't listen to this, by the way. But anyways, dear, love you. Yeah, but like it's kind of that thing, right? You don't know what you want. I mean, Tom, I think, is a great example for you guys, right? Like, that thing is snowballed out of control. He's the first one to say it or admit it too, right? But is the guy happier than a pig in shit right now? Oh yeah. Right?
Yeah, right.
And it's all because you guys were steering and managing and, kind of helping that thing along and got it to the point where it is.
The one thing we'll never sacrifice is the outcome. And that's just like the motto, like that's the mantra. Is that are you going to be mad that it took longer than expected? Maybe. Is it going to cost more than you expected? Absolutely. Is it going to be the best motherfucker that you ever could have imagined? Definitely. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's because if you have the other two without the third, then you fall into the middle. You know what I'm saying?
True.
But if you provide that last part, then you're always going to be on top no matter what. So that's our biggest thing. And that's, half the time we find ourselves like all the time. Oh, I just spent 7 hours doing some monotonous work that probably isn't even needed. You know what I mean? You could have not even done it. But
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, but I like it. Now it's like my personal touch on there, you know. And maybe I'm not gonna, you know, we're probably not even gonna charge for it because I just like this upgrade on the, like, that's my sponsored piece, right? Is like that's our touch right there. So
Yeah. I like that, boys. You know, and I don't think there's enough people doing this out there with that motto, right? I think everybody's still got that 90s hot rod shop in their mind, right? That, or like Fast and Furious kind of shit, right? Like, I want the NOS, give me the NOS, or I want the fucking turbo, or I want the whatever, right? Like, I don't know, just that bolt on, send it out the door. And not that there's anything wrong with that either. Like, there's a place for those shops as well, right?
definitely.
But to your guys' point of like getting this guy that he's running his own side hustle, fabricating stuff, right? And getting him in a couple times a week. And is that actually who did Tom's the exhaust for the Cookie Monster?
My part-time guy, you're saying?
Yeah.
No, so the cookie, well, it was like a joint effort.
Okay.
So
Cool.
it was me. I do all like the fab work, and then he's here. He was doing the welding. I think I tacked the headers all, you know, like there was a lot of back and forth. But no, primarily like any TIG work that you've seen, you know, if you've been scrolling through any of our social medias or anything like that, because obviously we only got really introduced to you guys. I've just been trying to catch up on your channels since Tom told me about you guys. So if you're doing the same, that's all my TIG work. So
nice.
Tom's exhaust probably has 10 to 15% Aaron's welding, and then 85% mine, and then I do all the pipe fit up. Now I obviously want to transition. Aaron's killer, so I would like to transition to turn that up, but we're still in the beginning stages of him being here. So he constantly is kind of like, I don't know how you like work so efficiently. And then meanwhile, I'm like, why is this taking me so fucking long to figure out this thing? And he's like, you like look at it and you're going to the bandsaw and you're cutting it and you're sanding it and then you boop right in, right onto the next piece, you know. And
right.
And like me, I feel like I'm never doing it fast. And it kind of comes from us always working on our own cars, never having to pay somebody else. And then you start looking at the hours in these cars. And it's the biggest flaw of the custom car situation for us being in between the like truly blank check, I can pay whatever you ask me guy, and the average, please make my car nice without me having to worry about who's working on it, being somewhere in between there is, trying not to let the time get away. You're trying to do everything so fast. And that's what I think wears on me and Dan. I don't want to speak for him, but the most is that we're trying to work so hard to try to get something done efficiently so that if I go to actually try to bill you for the hours, I don't feel bad about the amount of hours.
Yeah.
Does that make sense? That is the single hardest proponent of this. And, and I have to tell myself, and we still don't do it. Tom's exhaust will have hours and hours and hours missing off of it because of, how I feel that it should have taken me. And there's absolutely zero standard, zero book time, zero recommendations. It's just like a mental block that, I don't think it should take me 2 days to make a shorty header, right? I made custom headers on this car. It's got custom 1.7" to 3" headers, custom flanges. I had CNC cut. You know what I mean? Like everything fits perfect. So, but
on the flip side, and I completely relate to everything that you've said.
I listened to your last video on the black car, and I'm like, okay, we're on the same page.
Yeah, like if you had something that literally took you 10 minutes, but nobody else could do it in 10 minutes. It's a 3-hour job, but you do it in 10 minutes because that's your expertise and whatever. Do you bill a minimum an hour for it?
No, see that's no.
I would struggle.
Yeah. Well,
because I feel like it's all about balance. That's why I said earlier, I'm like, whether you charge whatever here, and then there's the learning curve or the whatever, the feel good curve or whatever the adjustment. Like I feel like mine just kind of, because yeah, you'll look at something, you're like, man, that took way too long. It shouldn't have taken that long, or I feel bad it took that long. But on the flip side, I did this, and that's going to balance that out, because you know what I mean? Like they're winning there. And it's sort of like if you're doing, you know, something that a shop you do in an hour, what the average shop is doing in 2, and your labor rate's only $20 an hour difference. And again, same thing, right? So I would say from my perspective is like 100%, there's always times and scenarios where it's like, okay, that doesn't feel right, or that doesn't whatever, but don't sell yourself short at the same time, because you know what I mean? Like I think just listening to you guys, the way that you operate, the things that you do, it sounds like you're 150 an hour. You know what I mean? I think it's worth every single cent of that, whether, you know what I mean, you feel good about it or not, because there's a lot of shops, and God knows, again, I don't know what they charged them for that output, but you know what I mean? And it's those people that spent all that money somewhere else, you're there to clean up the problem. You almost feel bad, and you're actually like, they're getting more for less money, where some other asshole, you know what I mean, pretty much won the lotto.
Yeah.
We just had a car recently that was similar to that. They had more money than we could. We're like, how do you have so much money into it? We added it up, like looking at the parts, everything. We're like, where is it? You know, it's hard.
I called them up. I'm like, hey, I looked in the trunk and I looked under the passenger seat, but where did they put the gold bars in here? You know,
So it is hard. I mean,
you know what, boys? I think
for the education,
and I think
customer,
this is
like you were saying. Go ahead.
Yeah.
The education of the customer,
I think
for the outcome, like, you know, like, of what expectations are for it is just,
yeah,
crazy.
100%. I think the fact that, you know, we're talking about, and it sounds like we've all got it, like that check valve where you're like, you know what I mean? Like that doesn't line up, right? Or that doesn't make sense. And something that I talk about all the time is like, you know, for anyone out there that's like thinking about turning wrenches on their own car and stuff, like just do yourself the favor, even if you pay somebody else to do the work for you, go out there and do it. Do it properly. Like Nick, like sit there and think it through. Like, imagine piping there, doing whatever it is you're going to go and ask some other shop to do, and just tally up how many hours, right? Because I guarantee you're probably going back into bed at like 1 a.m. and you went out in the garage at like 8, right?
Yeah.
Like, especially if you care, right? And it sounds like you guys do. This is what I'm picking up is like each and every one of those cars in that shop is or could be yours. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you take that much, give a shit, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
And there is something to be said about all that. But now the other side of this, and I think you guys will be able to warm up to this because I couldn't help but think of it when Chris was talking about like know your value, know your whatever. But I will say again, just the fact that we're talking about it in the way that we are, I think gives everyone the impression that like, okay, you know, these guys get it, right? But we've all had to go for a signature on some sort of official legal document. You're in and out of that fucking lawyer's office in 10 minutes and you're swiping the credit card for $250, right?
Yeah, right.
At least, yeah.
Now, in the exact same manner, the guy's got the piece of paper hanging on the wall. He's the only one that can do it, right? And his signature's worth money and he's got a fucking beach house to pay for and whatever else, right? But, you know, it's situations like that where you kind of go like, really? Like, really? You know? And I think that's where guys like us get hung up because you think to yourself, well, I've had that same problem. Minutes to fix it. You know what? This one's on me or whatever, right? Yeah. Even though you got little Johnny, he needs fucking milk. You know what I mean? Like, we got bills, boys, you know?
Yeah.
It's a really weird
car that we talked about
thing.
the lawyer thing. I don't want to say his name, but whose car was that? What car was it?
when it bounced the check.
No, when the
That's
to your
not good
point.
either.
Yeah, no,
yeah.
we have business lessons that we've learned. Don't get us wrong. It wasn't 9 years of scot-free living, but no, to the point of the attorney fees, I'm like, especially during race season or during on season,
Jeff,
it's like constantly the Mount one, right?
Yeah, but not in a bad way.
No, he was cool about it.
Yeah, he understood.
And
he agreed.
But I said something. He goes, "Man, you're like an attorney. You're like my attorney." And I'm like, "Yeah, open the phone book and see how many of those you could find versus how many of me you could find."
Yeah.
And it's like,
well said.
yeah, you're right. Yeah, you're right. There's 10 law offices on Main Street here. There's one performance shop that's going to give you the outcome that you're looking for. And like in the Midwest, there's not that many. So, and he was like, "Oh yeah, you're kind of right." And then that like came off the cuff, because I'm just a smart ass. But now I use it all the time. You know what I mean? Because it's like
on the phone with somebody and Jeff said like, yeah.
Yeah. So because it is true,
It is, but I say, I'll say it again, but like just the fact that is, it's a thought that you struggle with or you toy with or whatever, I think says a lot about a person's. Is if you did do something in 10 minutes or 15 minutes, right, and you're 150 an hour, just, I guess, knowing the client that did that for me is at least thinking that way. Like, I think that gives you some credibility,
Yeah.
I can't help but think that way. I know I would. Like any of my closest buddies that I would like, they're the 3 a.m. guys. Hey, put on your boots and you're putting the gun in your pocket kind of guys. All of those guys I know would never question me on anything that I was doing for them, selling to them, whatever. Like, we're blank check buddies and vice versa. You know what I mean? And on how you want to build a clientele. It's like, look, I was here till 1 a.m, but I fucked it up. So, that's why you're building cheap or whatever. So like I was fixing my shit or whatever. Right.
Yeah. We like to say,
those are the types of people you want to get into.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. We like bill up to discretion, like you just said, the job's supposed to take 4 hours and it took 6. Well, was that 2 hours because of something I did? Or was it 2 hours because of something in the car? If it's car related, unfortunately, it kind of falls on a feel it type of thing, but also like not our fault type of. But if it's something we did, we're eating it.
Yeah.
Like you said, it just kind of how.
Yeah, it's the flat tire on the way to the parts store, right? Like, didn't know that was going to happen, but hey, and clientele too, though, right? They're like, guy, like, you got to eat too. You can't go hungry for me. You know what I mean? Like, it's a marriage. You know what I mean? It's a back and forth.
And we've seen over the years now at this point, you can reflect where like there's people that we worked with early on, and it's not that we didn't like them. It's like they were just as much the family as anybody is nowadays, but they also recognized the leveling up process that the shop has gone through, right? And they're not going to come in there and ask us to do something. There's really no job too small. I don't want to. There's like a job. Oh, we don't want to mess with this, right? But he's like, hey, where would you go to get? I get this quite a bit, right? Who would you have do this, like a long tube clutch install? And it's like, well, I got 4 lifts of custom cars, so I really don't want to take one of those off to do that today. So call my buddy over here. He'll take care of you. Tell him that I sent you. And, because they kind of recognize where we're at in business and at the level that we're operating at quality wise, that, maybe doing some things, and they just kind of like fall to the wayside is what I'm getting at. Like the clientele's kind of morphed from where we started to where we are now. We're dealing with different people, a lot more people like you're saying, hey man, you haven't asked me for any money, and you guys have a business and you have employees and you have a kid. Like, I'm just going to come drop off a check for X because I know you need, I know you didn't ask me for anything, but I know you need it. I'm not a dummy. Like,
you've been working on my car. I see the progress, but you didn't give me a number yet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
which helps in
okay,
our
boys,
scenario because we suck at asking for it. We're just working. Like, oh yeah, thanks. I should
Yeah.
probably open that app once in a while. Yeah, talk to you later.
Totally. Well, okay, so this leads me to another question. I've asked a few people this recently because it's something that I don't know, just on my mind a lot lately. But when you think of the BBK is a pretty good example of this, right? And a aftermarket parts supplier that most people know. I know for a fact, since I started fucking around with their products, their quality has gone to absolute shit for an off-the-shelf header, H-pipe, whatever, right? So much so that you can get parts that like aren't threaded. Like it's endless, the QC issues that you can see with parts these days. And I can't help it, whoever it is that's behind BBK, and sorry, BBK, I'm shitting on you here, but whatever, right? It's the truth. Whoever started BBK probably didn't have this in mind however many years down the road that they were into business, right? That their QC was going to go out the window and
Gary, your kids are streaming like crazy and making you cut out.
I just had a blank screen there. Was I breaking up the conversation?
Yeah. Tell them to shut off the Stranger Things.
Yeah.
Little shits. Okay, so somewhere between like whoever it was that started BBK and now to the point that they're at, I don't know if they got too big too fast. They just lost sight of the goal that got them into the whole, aftermarket part scene in the first place, or whatever it is. So long-winded way of saying, guys, like, have you thought, like, where does Streetcar Shenanigans go from here? Because like, Nick, you were just saying somebody calls up and goes, hey boys, I need a set of long tubes thrown on here, right? Which, 6-7 years ago, you would have been like, Friday, bring it in. Let's get her done. Yeah, 100%, right? And now you guys have morphed into a way bigger space, right? And whatever, employees, all the rest of it. It's like, where do you, I don't know, like, I can't think for myself, like, there's a cutoff. You have to find your sweet spot where you're good. And that might mean that you're not getting that beach house in the Carolinas. Or maybe it's but it's just smaller. You know what I mean? But like, do you want to get to that point where your QC's shit, like BBK did? Have the house, have the whatever, forget whatever got you into it in the first place, because you've lost sight of all that because money's all over your sunglasses. You know what I mean? Like, how have you guys thought about any of those things or whatever? Because I think what you guys got going on right now, like, you might not feel it, but I think you guys are like hitting in the sweet spot, right?
Yeah,
Space you got, clientele you got.
I would say that the next thing is more like just kind of being organized to be able to take those projects on. I don't want to turn those projects away because they are good, and those projects get messed up too. Like you. Now I refer them. Before I'd be like, no, I can't do it until, like, let's say you call me today, you want to do something really simple that sounds like you should be able to drop it off today, right? And I'm like, oh yeah, we're booked until May. And then they go and they find someone else to do it, right? Because that's my response. Is I'm basically telling you to find someone else to go. Now I'm like, well, I'll tell you where to go, because if you do just call the next shop that answers the phone and they say yes, there's a good chance that you're going to bring it here, and we're going to be removing the header and the K member and trying to get the starter out of the way and trying to tap the head without taking the cylinder head off because they crammed the bolt in crooked and you got an exhaust leak on your what should have been a simple project. You know what I mean? So, I do want to want those projects to roll in through here. It's just, as of the last year, hasn't really been possible, to keep up with space, scheduling, workforce, all those things. We're just like, hey, we're kind of in our building 4 or 5 cars at once. All 4 of the 5 of those cars are, hey, where do you want us to start? this is where we want to end up. That's exactly what we want, right? We want the control from rolling chassis to starting line drag strip or stoplight, right? Whatever, wherever the end goal of the car is. So, I don't want to put, in other terms, I don't want to take Bob's car that's done so much for us and them as a family have done so much for us and say, hey, Bob, I'm not working on your car today because we're throwing a clutch in this random guy's car that I don't know, but I can make $500 extra for the day because I can charge, a book rate, let's say, and I can bang this out real quick and just make some quick money. Like, I don't want to have those conversations with the legacy people that are now, the family. Like, we almost have a book of business of the 20 guys that rely on us for their program. We really don't need like a whole lot of, we're not going to advertise, we're not going to start doing oil changes to try to get leads and, like a normal shop, like, hey, come get a $29 oil change. So I can tell you need $7,000 worth of work in your shit box. Like, that's not how our type of shop functions, So we run into people at the track and they'll be like, hey, I've been trying to get in there. I'll be like, oh, okay, yeah, I think I've seen your email. Sorry to get back to you. We're really busy. We're trying to restructure the shop for 26. This happened just in summer. And I go, did you mention that you're friends with so-and-so? Because they were hanging out with them. Oh, no, I didn't. I go, well, that's kind of how you get it. Like, you should have called them and be like, hey, can you ask Nick to get my car in? And be like, hey, what's up? We have a mutual connection.
Yeah.
And I'll figure out a way to add you to the family. But
like, as much as you vet a shop, it is like almost like what we kind of base off the clients. We kind of vet the clients.
Yeah.
We have a handful of clients like, hey, if they understand our work and if they understand what we do and they think, okay, yeah, your car and you will be suitable with them, then they will say, okay, yeah, you should call them. And if you unfortunately fail to mention that, it kind of falls to the wayside. If you do happen to say, hey, so-and-so sent me over, then we know that, okay, they kind of did the initial check for us, more or less, and now we know that you understand how we do business.
Yeah.
So
that's true. Birds of a feather flock together, right? And when brother Tom's buddy comes in, you can call Tom and go, Tom, your buddy's being a real asshole. Like, what do we do with this guy, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and we've had the vice versa. We had a rough one. I'm not going to name names or name cars, but we had a rough one it was very difficult. We built him a very, very cool car, but he was very hard to deal with. And he probably taught me a lot of lessons, in a very, I mean, we're talking like 3-4 years off my life are gone because of the time that I spent working for this guy. But his best friend was like, well, he said that he wouldn't go anywhere else. I'm like, oh, well, we wouldn't even let him in. So, but that's nice. We'll try this again. And that guy's like one of our best guys. We love that guy. So, like I said, I don't want to name names, but it is kind of, it's funny how it works, Yeah,
it is. Yeah. So
maybe
okay, boys, now you're
higher, that's another, like, long tubes and clutches, like you were saying, are kind of, easier, quote unquote, maybe, but it's also can give us an initial look into a potential, like if we do end up, like when we do hire another person, if they're, say, not as in tune with the custom world as we are, been doing it for years and years, that those type of jobs do allow us to see what they're capable of doing if an issue arises, how they handle that and go about stuff. It has a instruction manual, a book per se, all this stuff that they can follow versus what we are, what him and I do in the shop in general. So that kind
of adds a piece of the system that would make this type of work scalable. I think right now for us, like growth wise, to think about getting much larger than we are right now, you can't do it without workforce, right? And to hire more people to operate at our level is either really expensive. I mean, you're talking like relocating, hey, guy that works at our competitor shop 4 states over, you ever think about living in Illinois? You want to come hang? Because like that's almost the level that I feel that we're getting to, is that, when I'm listening to podcasts now, I'm trying to find interviews with other huge racing shops that do custom work all the time. I want to know, like, how are you guys doing this? How are you finding the guys? How are you structuring the schedule? How are you figuring out what to charge? Because it's really hard. It's really difficult, to think what's the next thing for us. I don't think it's getting any bigger. We don't really need to be any bigger. We could probably be smaller. We could be a boutique shop that just cranks out, a couple cars every now and then. And the margins will probably be higher. The clientele will probably be more narrowed in, and then work on our stuff. But I like you said, I think we are in a sweet spot, and now it's time to hone in on it. Really kind of 2025 was rough. Everything's fine as far as the business side is concerned. It was just like a lot of curveballs, man. It was just like sprinting nonstop all year. I felt like it's how we've been. So now Tom's car is a really nice turning point, because it was one that was sitting stagnant for a very long time, and it was like, well, what are we going to do? I don't know. And then all of a sudden we get all these life things that come up in the way. And now for it to be like, I could just walk over right now, turn the key, fires right up, revs beautifully. I could strap it to the dyno, go make 850 horsepower. And it's like, okay, cool. That it's not done, but it's like done. You know what I mean? And it's nice. That's the first one in this shop. That's a full project that we pretty much did the whole thing here.
Yeah. All we did at the old shop was
all the fucking around we did before.
Yeah, besides, but I'm saying in this version of the vehicle, all we did was pull it apart at the old shop.
So it's kind of nice to put that one under the belt in this location. And we were at the last location for like 7 years. So we kind of had a rhythm, then that rhythm got disrupted. Yeah. And now it's like, all right, now let's get back to stride and kind of really focus on what we're going to do, because we're like I joked earlier, we're kind of winging it, right? What's going to come up. I felt during the holiday season, the last few weeks, I was like, oh, it's weird. The phones aren't ringing much. And I talked to like the Snap-on guy comes in here and he's like, dude, you guys are the only shop around here with cars in it. Like, be happy that you guys are working. Like there's guys not working in some of the dealerships and these shops. People are staying home for weeks. I'm like, oh, okay. All right. So I'm getting a little gun shy that the phone isn't ringing, but we have a wait list and we have cars in the shop. So we're so closed off to the world, man. I don't know if you guys feel the same way or not. I know you guys are heavily focused on what you guys do independently. I feel like I don't really know what goes on outside of these walls, and my house is 4 walls. I'm just doing my thing, So when you hear somebody from the outside say that, you're like, oh, okay, all right, cool. That was a nice little reality check.
Yeah, bit of blessing. So now you guys aren't doing any paint work, hey? Like that's getting farmed out for Tom's car?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, nice.
Yeah,
so you
paint
guys
body is not really something that interests either one of us.
And there's just so much. It's like there is a countless amount of hours that you can spend, and still, obviously, even what we do now, the countless amount of hours you can spend and still not be done. And that's just like, I feel like it's so much more exponential when it comes to paint and body work. Obviously, we're never changing every build. We're progressing, but when it comes to paint and body work, I mean, it is crazy endless, and the amount of experience you have to have in order to get it to a quality that even we would want. We don't think we can jump into it and do it at a quality that we would even be, happy with, right? Especially not right away.
And with
God knows how many years it would take us to be to a quality that we're like, all right, this is good.
Yeah, and I feel like managing expectations is so hard on paint and body. So that's what really makes it really tough, is that every paint, I don't care if it's $20,000, the owner of that car is expecting $50,000. If the paint job was $50,000, the owner of that paint job is expecting the quality of $100,000. You know what I mean? It's like, because there's no once again, there's no like standard, right? I mean, if you go to Mako and you spend $500 on a paint job, they're probably going to paint your windows. Like that's the only expectation that you have to understand. And there's still going to be a guy that gets it back and go, "You guys didn't tape the windows?" No, that was a $290 option at the bottom that you did not check. So yes, we painted your windows. It's like,
Right.
So we don't mess with it. I mean, look, the car behind you looks painted. That's not factory.
That's factory.
Woo, that's pretty.
Well,
do you guys have?
I'm kind of lying. I'm lying a little bit. Deck lid's been repainted. Body kit's been painted. For the most part, it's factory. I question the driver's door. Are my 2 question points, but yeah, had this one since '97.
So do you guys have experience putting a car through a body shop?
I do it all the time.
Like a restoration deal. Do you do body work?
I do. I don't. Here's the crazy thing. I actually love painting. I like it. There's just something. It's so transformative and like rewarding, fulfilling. Like we all get that feeling, right, when we do our builds.
Right.
But like paint is definitely like one of the number one things. But to your guys' point, like I've got 3 cars sitting in different paint shops right now. Actually 4, I take that back. And to have 4 fully disassembled cars, like the amount of space it takes up, you know what I mean?
Sure.
And like whatever. And that's sort of to my point, that I made earlier. It's like, I know I can strip a Fox, get all the trim off without fucking anything up in like record time. Like I've got it down to a science, and you're going to pay. So it's almost like a flat fee. It's not that I'm overcharging you, but I've got a flat fee. And
you earned your experience. You earned your,
yeah. And like, to your point, like not every paint shop knows a Fox body the way that I do. They're not going to prep stuff out or take the clips or like take the time and care to make sure stuff doesn't get broke. And then more importantly, like, the shops that I work with know what my level of expectation is. Like, if you're doing a color change, or like make sure you get material here, or if you're shaving out an engine bay, or, this, that, or the next thing, because they are all different. But and that's where the customer, when I'm getting paint work done for them, it's sort of like, okay, look at this car, and this car that I have in the shop. Are you expecting this, or that? Because that's sort of like, here's 10,000, here's 20,000, here's just write a blank check, and whatever the bill is at the end, you're going to pay it. Because it's really the only way, like they got to see it. And sometimes they don't even know, they can't see the difference. You almost have to point it out. Like,
yeah, right.
Like, do you see how crispy that body line is? Or can you not notice that? You know what I mean? Like, can you notice the little bit of scratches that, you know what I mean, like are underneath the clear here, or the orange peel versus not orange peel, or buff versus not? Like, some people's eyes just don't see it. And it's a curse, because once you teach someone to see that stuff, you cannot, right?
100 for sure.
Yeah. So it's paint is, it's a challenging one, but one that I really, I do enjoy it. I curse it at some points. And like I said, right now I've got way too much like out, and they're all coming back at the same time. It'll be nice, like unboxing and starting to bolt shit on, so I can actually get shop space back. But it's a lot. And like when you guys are assembling motors, dealing with oil and fluids and all that stuff, like you can't, like a body, it'd have to be a separate building.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean?
Sure,
like you can't mix, and have clean rooms or whatever, the same room. And I don't care how clean of a body guy you say you are. You know what I mean? Like there's dust in the air, there's overspray, there's, I'm just going to blow this little bit of primer right here. It's not going to go anywhere. Like,
yeah,
we know how it goes.
We can touch up parts, and we're like, okay, go outside or wall off this whole corner over here. And we're literally just like painting a radiator bracket, you're like, because I know it's going to go somehow. I'm going to paint it all the way in this corner, and there's going to be overspray all the way in the opposite corner from me touching up something stupid up on the lift, So we try to avoid it. It's just it's too unpredictable, and you know, and so that's kind of where we kind of draw the line. You know, we have outsourced it. We've done projects where we, you know, done full builds where paint, body, custom sheet metal work, stuff like that. But it gets outsourced, and it's honestly, there's nothing in it for us doing that. You know, and it's once again, you're like, well, you know, you told me it was going to be 17.5. Now it's 22.5, and I was hoping that I was going to make $1,500 for driving it back and forth, but now I kind of feel guilty because you're dinging me on this thing. You know, like just
we don't want to.
There's something wrong with it. There's something wrong with it. God forbid.
The middleman.
Who hears about it? You know, we hear about it, not the body shop.
Yeah. No, it's
so
it's
we
tough,
kind of
right?
avoid that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've been trying to.
$1 million question for you, boys.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, no, go ahead, Dan.
No, that was literally just gonna be like, yeah, we've stopped being like the middleman with the body stuff. I mean, Tom's will probably be like one of the few that are like, okay,
we'll do like the engine based stuff, you know.
Then we'll try and find a couple different people for paint, but
like this one here, this is a sweet one we got coming together. Like we got this engine bay painted. We did all the sheet metal work to modify. Can you guys see it?
Yep. Yeah, looks good.
So we deleted the HVAC panel over there. Obviously, cut the whole fenders apart. You know, and then we took the fenders off of it completely. Took it to the body shop. You know, we tubed some parts of the frame rails, and we got the engine bay sprayed. You know, and then when it came back, we put it all back together, and that's no big deal. That's nothing. You know, and okay, there's some runs here and there, whatever. But you're talking about, you know, $1,500 to spray the front of the car so it looks like a new build versus, you know, there's some runs in the wheel well. Like nobody cares about that.
That's a race car,
right?
It's a race car, but you're talking $25,000, and there's a speck in the paint somewhere. You're like, well, in order to fix this little speck in the paint, you got to like,
yeah.
Totally.
So, anyway, you
so
go ahead. You got a question,
boys? Yeah. When was the last time you worked on your own shit?
Well, the Tramp.
I kind of work on. Yeah, we kind of work on the Tramp a lot.
Yeah,
the Tramp.
Oh yeah,
a lot of
so you're still finding time.
Basically, if the best, if we like, I get harped on a lot here at the shop because I don't drive my car very much. It's a lower mile for Cobra, and I'm like I don't know, in my head about it a little bit. So I'm like, the drive to and from the shop is like, it's not a bad drive, but it's just kind of like a to B drive. I'm like, you know, there's not really a whole lot of places to stretch the legs type of thing and, you know, do all that. So I'm like, I don't really drive.
Bullshit. I do 103 times on the way here.
I don't do it very often, but when we do drive the cars to the shop, it's usually to work on, or if they're there, it's more like, well, they're there. I got some time after, you know, after hours type of thing, where it's like, oh, there's a couple of things I want to
10 o'clock.
Kind of tinker with. So the Tramp, like you said, the Tramp we do dabble with, because it is, you know, it's a car that, you know, started it all for us. So it's like we're ever evolving it and looking at any little, even the littlest detail of like a vacuum line going this way instead of that. You know, it's the littlest thing that draws your eye. You know, anything little will do.
We're just the guys when we're taking the car to the track. Dan is looking at it. I'm pulling a plug on it or something like that. I'm like, oh, it's running good. We recently, over the last 3 years, had an injector problem that literally led me to do everything besides injectors. And then when I put injectors on it, I was like, oh my God, I love this car all over again. Like I didn't race it for a few years. I didn't because I was hurting it. And I'm like, I can't explain why it's doing what it's doing. You know, it would drive fine most of the time. And anyway,
they would test fine.
Yeah, and they would test fine on like a flow bench or something like that. But but once I was like, you know what, we're gonna put a set in it. We put a Dominator in the car. We kind of like, once again, it's very much set up like Tom's as far as all the electronics that are on it. I'm like, man, this thing's great. Let's take it to the track. Let's start racing it. So now we're at the track with it again, and you kind of get like, okay, let's try this. All right, let's move the bar. It's got adjustable control arm locations in the chassis. All right, let's try that. We'll go back on Thursday. Now all of a sudden we find ourselves wrenching on it again instead of me just putting it around. And then every time, then I like to drive to the shop. I drive it. I mean, I don't know, 6,000-7,000 miles this year at least. And I mean,
Nice.
we're talking 1,200 wheel horsepower, face plated T56. I mean, it's a stock interior. There's no cage, you know, but it's a handful. It's not just something you drive in to take to 7-Eleven. You know what I mean?
Right.
But I'll drive it here, and then it sits out front, and then Dan's looking at it. I'm like, what are you looking at? He's like, oh, I think I'm going to change minute detail, right? But that's what crafted it in what it is. I mean, it's like one of the baddest cars ever. But that's how we are with everything. We'll be at the track helping somebody, be like, oh, we should have done this like this. And the next time it's here, we're doing that just because,
Yeah.
you know, we thought about it, and now we want to change it. And it probably never even got brought up to anybody else. It's just,
and it's like, and then there's other little things like we have obviously the Tramp, and I have my Cobra. Then we have a couple other personal projects that are bigger projects that we don't really do as much because it's like our cars are running, so it's like hard to take them down. It's like I don't want, like I have a blower and a fuel system and all this stuff that go on the Cobra that I've had for years, but I can't bring myself to take it apart. Right? It's like I want to still drive it when I want to drive it, type of thing.
Yeah.
So it's hard to dabble with that. But we have we also have a Notch. It's like gonna be a badass stick shift car that he's had, a black 91 Notch that you've had since like 2016 or something like that. Yeah. So he's had that for a while, but now it's a shell on jack stands in the garage for the past.
Exactly what you would expect a shop owner's car to look like. So when you ask your question, the Notch is what you're looking for. The Tramp is not. The Tramp is atypical. You know, it's still a front runner in the fleet, but the Notch is
okay. But
those are like that
with it being, like I was gonna say, with it being, you know, sort of what the whole is like, you finding that you're getting just as much time in it out at the track as you always did, or you know, with the way the business has gone, you guys are spending more time working on everybody at the track.
Yeah, over the last few years, I mean,
this weekend.
Yeah, over the last few years, it's definitely been spending more time on customer cars. I mean, we've been lucky that we've had clients that are like, hey, you know, how about you take it down the track and get it sorted? You know, so like I currently hold the Whipple T56 or positive displacement T56 record in a customer's car. You know, we went 8.0. It's a 4.6 out of a Cobra with a Whipple 3.0 on it. We have a record for the VMP with a stick. We have the record for the Whipple with a stick. And they're just micro records, but it's an 8.0 at 175 mile an hour. It's the fastest I've ever been. You know, it's faster than my car is. Yeah. You know what I mean? And he's like, you do it, and then I'll do it. You know, and then so I did that. That was all like last year for me. There was a lot of passes in that car. You know, there was a lot of sacrifice on our end. You know, we broke crank snout off of it twice with me driving it. And then you kind of feel, all right, well, what can I do to help this guy out on fixing this? Because, you know, just the parts in that situation is a fortune. You know, so even if he didn't have to pay us to take the motor out and go through it, it's like the crankshaft is $4,000. Balancer's trash. That's $1,000. All the timing components are trash. It's got 32 freaking valves in it that just made contact with, you know what I mean? It's like, it's not junk, but there's a lot of shrapnel, you know. We did it twice in two like back-to-back events. Yeah. You know, so
trying to push the car as much as we can.
Because we wanted to get a 7 out of it, you know. But I was fortunate, so I raced quite a bit with that. And then this year we had a problem child that came from it's had a lot of hands in the cookie jar. And we basically, I don't want to say we sponsored the car because, you know, obviously we spent a lot of money, you know, a lot of customer money on the car too. But there was so much time that we devoted to it to try to see it through to the end without giving up. Like it was a car that probably cost us $20,000, you know, not out of pocket, but in just time devoted to it, unbilled, to make sure, like, hey, let's make sure that this is better than anybody's expecting, and it's more of a race car, you know.
That one was having weird issues too that we were facing.
Yeah, tons of weird problems. So
we went to multiple shops, and you know, they do things a little differently than what we like to do, and for issues that it had that we had to, you know, redo and change stuff in order for it to function as we saw it should. You know?
So they saw that and they said, well, why don't you guys take it? I'm like, I'm going to take it to the track tonight and we're going to make a couple passes in it. We started to kind of get it figured out a little bit. It goes, yeah, that's fine. If you guys want to take it and make some passes, we're not going to make it up there because they're like an hour and a half away. So I was like, all right, Dan's going to drive it. So then Dan drove it. Well, then that turned into a whole season of Dan driving it. And I don't know if you guys follow a lot of racing, but Little Gangsters is like a 530 X class, eighth mile class. And it's like, then we turn that car basically into a turnkey Little Gangster car. You know, you can pretty much take it anywhere. So we raced it 4 or 5 events.
Yeah, at least.
It was at least like 5-6 days, you know, like testing, you know, between not only events, but testing to get it sorted, bring it back, make a change, go back out. And at the end of it, they can load it up in the trailer, go to the track, and it's going to go 530.
Yeah, because when he first brought it to us, it was having nothing but problems. You couldn't even drive it on the block without it overheating. You couldn't do this. And he's like, I just wanted to do this. Okay, we got it to do this. He goes, all right, now I want it to go this fast. All right. So like once we got to the
that's why we didn't race your car. To your point, you know, like last year I didn't care about racing my car because I was racing Mark's foxbody. Right, you know, so
you're getting your fix.
Yeah, exactly. And then I'm dyno tuning them and driving them. You know, like I'm doing ungodly things in these cars to make sure that when they go do them, like
they'll hold up.
Yeah, I don't want somebody to go take this car right here is a good example. That GT500, that's 1200 wheel, 5.4 with a 3.8 liter Whipple. And like the last thing I want him to do is go out there and it, you know, hangs a head gasket out of it. And then, you know, oh, you didn't floor it before I took it home. Like, oh no, sorry. You know, so we don't want that to happen either. So yeah, we got it. We've gotten our fix.
Yeah.
So, you know, this year I finally was like, all right, once the tramp was running good, I was like, we got to take it to the track. We got to see how it's going to do. You know, so I did get to race the tramp a little bit this year, which was nice. And it still has a couple problems, but it's a sick car. And then next year we'll get Dan's car figured out.
We have a number in mind for the tramp that we wanted to run, just so we could say, hey, it did it. And that'll kind of, you know, obviously it's always like more. And that's even circling way back to like how you're saying with like the average Joe coming into a shop. How do you do that? It's like hard because you can always want more and want more and want more. It's hard to be like, okay, I just want this. Well, it's like the same thing with the tramp. It's like this will at least get us to a good. We just wanted to run the number, and now we'll be content, you know, for a while. Yeah. You know, now we can just go enjoy it, not have to. Obviously, the track is very hard on it, you know, so it's like reduce the risk of it breaking because you're, you know, heavy load, wringing it out versus, you know, on street tires, you're just blowing the tire off. You're not really loading it all very hard. So it's like, once we do that, get that, and then like he was saying, then we can, you know, move on to the next thing. And then, we'll probably put the blower and all that stuff on my car. And then the same thing with my car. I'm like, I just want to get to a number and then we'll be there. Because I'm not, with mine, I don't want to put a cage in or anything like that. It's just my, you know, fun little street cruiser type of deal. And, you know, we'll have eventually down the road, we'll have our own little race cars that we can, you know, we'll have all the, you know, the jungle gym in it and all that stuff. But
I don't think that as of right now, I haven't lost the desire to work on my own stuff. That's important.
Yeah.
You know, so it's not like I'm not working on it because it's like, oh, fuck working on cars. I'm working on cars all day. You know, I don't really have that, you know, and that's all that matters to me. Like if that day comes, that'll be a sad day. You know, because a lot of people, I mean, you guys know you're in the same circles. Like a lot of people are like, oh, well, one day. I'm like, well, no, that day isn't here yet. You know, so right now life's good.
And you'll have a lot of people who do the general automotive stuff will have cars, but they'd want to go home and work on them. Just because
that's exactly kind of why I asked.
Yeah, like you said, we're you know, and even if we're at the shop having a rough time, we'll call, you know, have the trips there. Nichols will take like a boost break. Just go rip the car on the block real quick and come back, and everything will be well. It'll be all come back and get a new eye and have fun with it.
Well,
Try and
okay, boys, and sorry. Now I got $2 million questions. Here's a follow-up $1 million question. Nick, has your dad driven the Tramp? Because he was the one that kind of got you into this haywire, let's go faster in the Tramp mix-up,
Yeah,
right?
that's a good story. I'll try to abbreviate it, but when we started Streetcar, I had my notch, which I have a 91 notch. It had a stock block 347. I put like 205 heads on it. It was carbureted, super simple. It was right before the prices started to get crazy. I mean, I paid $5,500 as a painted roller, and it's not painted the gray. It's got a nice 20-foot paint job, but
yep.
I don't even think quarter windows were taken out of it, but they taped them off nicely. Yep. It was pretty quick. It was probably like high 10-second car with TKO in it. Super simple build. When the Tramp hurt itself, I at that point already broke the crankshaft out of the bottom of the block on my notch, so I had a better upgraded top end kit for it. And that was when we were starting Streetcar and I was doing the YouTube videos. So my dad's like, hey, I think I'm going to get away from the Tramp. You and your brother just beat on it and break it, and it just cost me a bunch of money all the time, and I don't really enjoy driving it. I think I'm going to get back into boats. I'm like, nope, that's like not an option. We're keeping the Tramp, and I'll fix it. I'll pay to fix it. I'll put my parts off my black car, and that's what shelved the black car. Right, that's almost 10 years ago now. It's because I took whatever was an upgrade for the Tramp and put it on there, and then I traded some shit off of it to get more stuff for the Tramp. But the thing is that the Tramp used to be air conditioned, power steering, like it was legit street. Now I wanted a Renegade bracket on the blower so I could spin the blower harder. I wanted bigger heads, bigger cam. I wanted it to make like 800, reliably at that time. And I did that. We ended up doing that, changed the exhaust system. But it was still a TKO car. Yes, he drove it then. He drove it then often. It was fine. I was racing it a lot, though. He raced it in one of the earlier events when it was that fast. It was clocked off, but he always wanted it to be a 10-second car. It never went 10s. He definitely went 10s that day, but the clocks were off. So that was cool, right? He got smoked on the light, but I think Brian, our buddy later on down the road, I didn't know him then, but now I know him, jumped. So we actually got to do 2 rounds, which was cool. Then I turned it up, put a D1X on it. He didn't like the no power steering part. Kind of took away from the purpose of the car when we were building it my whole life. Then we put a D1X on it and turned it up. Dan and I went out and blew the transmission out of it. I put a faceplated T56 in it that I had bought for my black car. That kind of made it hard to drive. So I kind of stacking up these drivability issues for him to easily get in it and drive it. So he kind of stopped driving it around that time. At that time, it made like 950 at the back tire.
Okay.
Which was ridiculous. And he drove to a car show with me with it faceplated. I was kind of telling him how to drive it, and he caught on super fast. I mean, he's been into cars since I think his first new Mustang was an '83, and then he's always had one. And they were always, street race cars or something like that. So he's no dummy. He's a speed freak. I get it from somewhere. And so he caught on, and we're out ripping on it or whatever. He's like, man, I just wish it had power steering. I could get over the faceplated transmission. But it was too late. It was too far gone. Fast forward, we kept making the car faster. He didn't drive it at all. I think maybe one time we stood up the street when it made like 1100 wheel a couple years ago. And he's like, maybe I am getting old because this car is fucking fast. And I'm like, yeah, it's pretty fucking fast. And then and that was it. That was, since we did a lot of 0304 Cobras, he didn't drive it much up until that point. Side story, we just had a bunch of 0304 Cobra parts. Had a guy call us, said he was selling his roller. So we had a 04 Cobra tucked to the side that we were going to flip. And he was like, well, I don't drive the Tramp anymore. I got rid of the boats. He did go through a boat phase. He's like, I got rid of the boats. I kind of want to get back into the car again. And because now we're doing a bunch of car shit. Now Streetcar at this point we're only talking like 4 years ago now. So now Streetcar's got a reputation. We're showing up with places. We're going to car shows with 20 guys following us. And he's like, okay, I don't want to be riding bitch. So, you know, I want a car. How about we put that black Cobra together for me? And I'm like, perfect. Dan and I were looking for an excuse to keep it anyway. So that's a perfect idea. And
hell of a deal on a car. It was like
Yeah.
a barn find in the.
yeah, so it's an 04 Cobra, and it had a built motor that came with it, which is why we bought it, because we got both for cheap. And then he got on YouTube and was like, oh, well, how about we put cams on it? And is it going to make 700-800 like Tramp did? You know, because when you took it over, it made 800 horsepower. So I don't want 500 horsepower. I'm like, okay. You know, so we finagled stuff around for a couple years and collected parts for it. And now it's 10-1. It's got cam ported heads. It's got a VMP 265 ported on it, which is similar blower to what we set the record with at the time. On 19 pounds, it made 810 horsepower and like 670 foot-pounds. And it's got AC, power steering, factory radio, factory interior, factory transmission, suspension. It's just all stock with lowering springs, a bunch of horsepower. And it is sick.
Nice.
Yeah. So
And
he's
the
got
old man,
smell.
and the old man rattles around Illinois in it.
Yep.
So now that was a
Hell yeah.
replacement for the Tram.
And it's a badass car too. I a couple times this year, I'm like, when did you take it out last? Oh, I don't know. I'm like, all right, I'm gonna get it.
Hell yeah.
That's a
Oh,
sick
dude,
platform.
that's-
You know, box bodies are fun. The 0304 Cobra is such a good stock platform vehicle. It's so good.
Yeah. Yeah, they are. That's a special couple years there.
Yeah.
Boys, I feel like I do this all fucking night, but you guys are way later in the day than I am, and you probably got a few more hours work ahead of you on that piece of shit of Tom's, so we should probably wrap.
Yeah, sounds good. It's good talking with you guys.
Yeah.
Oh, buddy. Yeah, sorry, Chris. Yeah, 100%. Thank you so much for taking the time, boys. I know we were talking about it just before the holidays too, and whatever. Holidays is always a crazy time, and you guys obviously got a shop full of cars and trying to get to your shows and stuff. So yeah, we really appreciate this for sure.
Yeah. Thanks
Yeah,
for
it's
coming
hard,
on.
hard to focus on one thing at a time when there's so much stuff going on. But hopefully, we put together something people will listen to.
100%, boys. And I guess I heard a little rumor that you guys might be sliding down to pits.
Yeah, that's current plan. You know, we have a lot on the plate, and we kind of fly by the seat of our pants as far as scheduling is concerned. So it's hard for me to tell. Yeah, no problem. Sounds good. But I'll probably make it happen. Yeah, I'm trying to get my car and you know, Tom's car's got to go, obviously, but I'm going to try to get the Tramp down there also.
And maybe
Nice.
that 04 Cobra there, Daniel?
Yeah. We'll see how it all works out.
Gonna need a lot of trailers or good weather.
Yeah, good will. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, coming out of Illinois that time of year. That's true too.
It's hit or miss.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, we're going. So boys, if you're coming down, we'll definitely share a beer with you there in person.
Yeah.
Absolutely, that'd be great.
Yep.
Yeah.
You guys bringing
Cool.
one car, all the cars, or what?
He's got a bit of a crazy plan.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see if it comes to fruition, if all the timelines and
Everything
deadlines. Yeah.
Is this
and
one that's in the
logistics
body
with
shop
my
right
people.
now?
Yeah, but like actually
Yeah,
the
of
body
course.
shop
Yeah, it sounds
body
right up
shop is the
our alley.
least of my worries. They were
Aw.
spraying skirts and doing all the cut-ins and everything today on it. So I have a feeling I'll see that car probably by the end of next week. And then it's everything else that goes along with it. So we'll see.
Have you said what it is, or are you kind of keeping it? I know you hinted at it in the last pod of your guys' I listened to, that it's a drop-on situation, but
Yeah, well, it's the 93 Cobra that was hit that
Right.
that I'm trying
you
to
did the
bring
roof
back to
on.
life.
You did the roof on it, right?
Yeah, and did the T-roof on it. So that's what I'm hoping. If it's not that, I'll grab something else.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, boys. Well, yeah, thanks again for doing this. And
Thanks for having us.
yeah, 100%. And like I say, hope to meet you here a few months, a couple months, not
Yep.
even a few.
Don't remind me.
Yeah. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Alrighty, guys.
All right, we'll talk to you guys soon.
See ya.
All right.
You bet. Thanks, guys.
Bye.